Chapter 32-32. He remembered that there were some wandering souls in the deformed world of samsara, as well as some souls that were put there by His Excellency. Now that the rebirth pool was gone, all the souls should have been reborn. Even if they were not reborn, they were probably being used by the world to evolve. Ning Shu could not interfere with the evolution of the world. As for how it would evolve, it was up to the world itself. Zhu Jun said, "Instead of looking for the mark everywhere, why don't you check if you are marked? Is it easier to find the world than to find you? Can't you just find yourself?" Ning Shu said, "I have checked my soul over and over again. I should not be marked. If it is a mark that I can't find, I should not be able to detect it in my current situation." Ning Shu also checked these skeletons. What if the mark was planted on these skeletons? He probably knew that even if she left the organization, she would not throw these skeletons away. Zhu Jun asked, "What are you going to do next?" Ning Shu said, "I don't have any plans. First, I will solve the problem of the soul and then find someone to talk to." Some things were bottled up in her heart. She had to clarify them. Zhu Jun did not say anything. He left with a large group of skeletons. Without looking back, he waved at Ning Shu and said, "I will find more wandering souls for you." Zhu Jun knew that Ning Shu was in trouble. Ning Shu's life was also related to their life and death and where they would go. After they were created, they did not know what the future would be like. Ning Shu continued to compress the filthy things, compressing them into her dantian. After countless bounces, Ning Shu finally managed to compress these things firmly in his dantian. His soul also recovered its freshness. Ning Shu finally let out a long breath. It was really not easy. This was not a fight where you beat me up and I beat you up. Instead, it was a long period of mental depression, shrouded in all kinds of negative things. It made him feel painful, dejected, desperate, and lonely. Although there was a group of skeletons, this kind of thing depended on Ning Shu alone. If he couldn't make it, he could only become a monster without any intelligence. Fortunately, he managed to endure it. Even if he did, Ning Shu felt mentally and physically exhausted. He felt as if his entire body had been hollowed out. Ning Shu lay down, motionless. In this situation, she needed to stabilize herself. She couldn't rashly absorb more soul force. Once the situation stabilized, he could absorb as much as he wanted. He didn't need to absorb the pure soul energy, and he could still make himself stronger. Although this thing might not really corrode, to some experts, if they were really touched by it, they could just cut off their arm and dig out the contaminated area. But the advantage was that it was disgusting. Moreover, the weaker ones would be corroded directly. It was a good way to play dirty. It was very troublesome to be contaminated. One had to think twice before provoking her. Ning Shu was probably a person who was covered in poison. One touch and he would be poisoned. In the past, he wasn't well-liked, and now, he would probably be even less well-liked in the future. Ning Shu felt that this was quite good. Don't let people provoke her for no reason. Ning Shu took out the God-beating whip. "She wouldn't give it to you. She wouldn't give it to you. Let's see what you can do." "So what if I set it up? I'll make sure you can't get the God-beating whip." Did you think that setting up a trap wasn't tiring? Of course, it was tiring. This included many people. Setting up a trap was a method. Breaking through 10,000 tricks was also a method. The more they wanted the God-beating whip, the more Ning Shu wouldn't give it to them. The more she felt that the God-beating whip was a good thing. "I won't give it to you." Now, she had lost 40% of the kidney-strengthening fruits in the orchard. If she left the organization, they wouldn't give it to her. Even if she went back, they wouldn't give it to her. So what was the point of going back? Even if she was chased around by the organization, she was willing. It was his choice to be killed. Ning Shu realized one thing, and that was that others didn't listen to her at all. It was as if everything she said was a joke. If you didn't say anything, it meant that you agreed. All right, you didn't have any objections. You said it, but others didn't take it seriously at all. Why are you still standing there? What's the point? This was because she was too weak. Because she was weak, she didn't need to have any objections. She didn't have the right to speak. Now, she didn't want the right to speak. She didn't want to squeeze in front of them. She didn't expect to have any right to speak. She didn't want it. Ning Shu exhaled. She stood up and jumped to make sure that the filth in her dantian wouldn't dissipate again. Then she compressed it again. The filth was now in the form of water. She had to compress it into a solid state so that it wouldn't bounce back so easily. Returning to her original appearance, Ning Shu touched her face. It was better to appear in front of others now. She wouldn't appear in front of others with a helpless look. She wasn't begging for sympathy or pity. What was the point of looking so pitiful? Ning Shu jumped to Water City. She was no longer the city lord of Water City because the laws had collapsed. As for the city lord medal, Ning Shu could just leave it in the consultation room when the time came. Ever since she became the city lord, Ning Shu hadn't received many taxes. On the contrary, she was always in trouble. Ning Shu walked into the restaurant and said to the waiter, "I'm looking for Shu Bai. Please inform Shu Bai that I'm Ning Shu and I'm looking for her." Ning Shu didn't order any dishes. It didn't matter if her appetite was satisfied or not. Moreover, she didn't have any merit points to pay now. She was here to ask some questions. Ning Shu sat in the hall and waited. After waiting for a while, Shu Bai didn't come down. Instead, the waiter came down and said to Ning Shu, "Sir, the boss is waiting for you in the private room upstairs. Go upstairs and turn left. It's the last private room." Ning Shu thanked him and went upstairs. When he pushed open the door of the private room, Shu Bai was sitting on a chair. When she saw Ning Shu, she smiled. As usual, she poured a cup of tea for Ning Shu and said, "What would the city lord like to eat?" Ning Shu said faintly, "You don't have to call me city lord. I'm no longer the city lord." He didn't even have the nomological imprint. How could he be the city lord? When he came back here again, he felt that things had changed. Shu Bai nodded her head and said, "Then what would you like to eat? I'll treat you. Serve me all the delicious dishes." After all, he might not come back in the future. Shu Bai nodded her head and said, "Okay." The two of them were silent. When all the dishes were served, Shu Bai took the lead and said, "Try some. This is the restaurant's newest dish." Ning Shu picked up his chopsticks and said, "I want to try it and see if it tastes good. I want to see if it will improve your restaurant's business." Ning Shu tasted every dish and nodded his head. "It tastes good." Shu Bai fanned herself with her round fan. She held the fan tightly and smiled. "Thank you, City Lord, for your praise. With your words, I believe that my restaurant's business will improve." Chapter 32-33. Shu Bai was a little nervous, but she pretended to be calm on the surface. On the phone, Ning Shu smiled faintly. "It'll get better. After all, the restaurant is all you have. If the restaurant isn't good, you won't have anything to settle down in." Shu Bai's fan paused as she said, "Yes, a weak person like me is just like a lowly creature. I only have the instinct to seek benefits and avoid harm. Because I'm too weak, I can't even care about righteousness and morality. Because she was too weak, she couldn't do evil or become a kind person. Because she would die, she was like an animal. She was afraid and used her instincts to avoid danger. When she was escaping, she wouldn't even think about whether it was right or not. Because she couldn't bear the danger, her actions would only be looked down upon by others. Because she was poor and weak, she couldn't become a kind person. Poverty gave birth to evil intentions and wealth gave birth to kindness. If one wanted to be a kind person, they only needed to give something insignificant to become a kind person. They had the right to choose what kind of person they wanted to be. But what about when they were poor and weak? When they couldn't even protect themselves, why would they think about protecting others? Shu Bai smiled, appearing even more gentle and moving. Shu Bai had always been magnanimous and moving. Even at this time, she was still smiling. Ning Shu also smiled. Her smile was much more ethereal and carried a sense of aloofness. "What does it have to do with me? Do you think I have to sympathize with you? I thought you came to me for protection because you thought highly of my strength. I didn't expect you to turn around and sell out the person who protected you." Shu Bai's smile disappeared. Her expression was bitter, but she didn't regret it. "I chose to give up the opportunity to become strong back then. This is what I should bear. Because I was weak, I was threatened, so I had to compromise. I understand. Regardless of whether I was coerced or took the initiative, some things are done. I have nothing to quibble about. Ning Shu said indifferently, "What benefits did they promise you?" "They didn't promise me anything, but they threatened me. They could have directly asked me to get out of the city. I might have been able to refuse the temptation, but direct threats are often simpler and more violent. Temptation proved that you had value. Threats that came with orders were an even more tyrannical and barbaric method. They used extreme power to directly destroy you." Ning Shu laughed. "I think not only are you weak, but your brain is also a little abnormal. Shu Bai, you've been doing business for so long. Haven't you learned how to take both sides? You only needed to say one thing to me, to mention it in advance, and this matter would be perfect. But you didn't say if they would protect you after I left." Shu Bai had mentioned that if she still insisted on looking for Zhang Jiasen, would this matter have anything to do with Shu Bai? It didn't matter. No matter how things turned out, Shu Bai wouldn't be blamed. Ning Shu stood up. "Keep these dishes for yourself. Although this is a world where the strong prey on the weak, you don't have any morals. We won't meet again in the future. You're talking about the survival instincts of low-level animals. I don't think your desire to live is that strong. I hope the new city lord of Water City can protect you." Ning Shu walked out of the restaurant and looked back at the restaurant signboard. Even without the law of prophecy, Ning Shu could predict that this restaurant wouldn't be open for long. Something had happened to the person behind Shu Bai. Now, something had happened to her. Who would be Shu Bai's protector in the future? However, Ning Shu didn't think that Shu Bai would be able to find a suitable protector for what she had done. This was the sorrow of the weak. They couldn't be themselves and had to entrust their hopes to others. However, it was more practical to rely on others. This was Shu Bai's choice. Even if Shu Bai regretted it, she wouldn't have the chance to start over. She would always be like this, looking for someone to protect her. However, who would really protect her all the time? Like Shu Bai's choice at a critical moment, others might also make the same choice and give up on her. Sure enough, one could only see a person's true colors after something happened. In the past, Ning Shu quite liked to bicker with Shu Bai. Now, it seemed that how much of that bickering was actually true and how much was fake. There was also a disadvantage of a soul body. She couldn't even enjoy the pleasures of intimacy. Once she broke away from the control of her physical desires, the boundaries between men and women weren't so clear. Men wouldn't always think about satisfying their physiological needs, and women wouldn't be any weaker than men. Everyone was a soul body, so what was the difference? If they had a body, there would still be physiological differences. However, after becoming a soul body, it depended on whose soul was stronger. This was a place where both men and women had to work hard. Shu Bai, he didn't even have to do anything. Shu Bai's life wasn't easy. She had to rely on others to protect her. The restaurant wasn't a money tree. Friendship. Ning Shu felt that she had some feelings for Shu Bai. But what about it? She probably felt that he couldn't protect her and that she couldn't beat those people. Therefore, she chose the other side. There wasn't anything to be angry about. It was just that there was one less person to talk to. Shu Bai was the same as Zhang Jiasen. She acted as a go-between in this matter. Shu Bai wouldn't think that this matter was over and that the people of that faction would forget about it. Perhaps they would treat it as a fart, but they might despise it in their hearts. People were so strange. On one hand, they would shout that a wise man submits to circumstances. On the other hand, they would praise those who were loyal. There were roughly two sets of standards. People could use these two sets of standards to find an excuse for their actions. Ning Shu arrived at the consultation room. He didn't go in. Instead, he threw the City Lord medal on the table in the room and turned to leave. Sang Liang lifted the curtain and saw the City Lord medal on the table. He called out to Ning Shu, "Why are you leaving? Sit down and have a chat." Ning Shu turned around and said, "I don't dare to go in. I don't have money." From the moment she stepped in, her identity had already been cancelled. As for the merit points in her account, there was also the reward for picking up the fragments and handling the star stones. All the things she had in the past were gone. It was impossible to part on good terms. Even if it was possible, she had to give up a lot of things. Sang Liang's expression was indifferent. He sat down and looked at Ning Shu. Come in and sit down. Tell me everything clearly. Otherwise, if you can't explain it clearly, many things will be meaningless. Ning Shu asked, Do I need to pay for this conversation? Sang Liang said, It's free. Ning Shu lifted her skirt and walked into the consultation room. She sat down and asked calmly, What do you want to talk to me about? Sang Liang asked, Leaving the organization just like that? Ning Shu asked back, Otherwise? If she didn't leave the organization like that, she would have to hold a farewell ceremony and be reluctant to leave. /BK. Chapter 32-34. She was afraid that the black muzzle of a gun would be pointed at her again. Although she wouldn't die, it would hurt her body and her soul. The pain of the soul exceeded the pain of the body. Ning Shu really wanted to swing the whip and let those people have a taste of the pain of the god-beating whip. Sang Liang asked, Is it worth it? Ning Shu shrugged and said, What's done is done. Don't think about whether it's worth it or not. She had to bear with regret. She had already experienced the worst. It did not matter if it was worth it or not. Regardless of whether it was worth it or not, she was the one who wanted to do it. Whether the consequences were good or bad, she had to bear them. Ning Shu and Sang Liang's conversation was peaceful. It did not seem like there was any class conflict. Sang Liang said, I don't want anything in the organization. I don't need the power of the soul or the merit. Since it's a mutually beneficial matter, let's make use of each other. You're like a child trying to get attention. Ning Shu tilted her head. If I say I don't want anything, I'm still trying to get attention. I'll think of a way to get the power of the soul. As for the merit, it's the same as not having it. You don't want the fruit. Ning Shu smiled. She had enough stock now to fill her stomach. In the end, the fruit would be useless. She would probably have a lot left. She wanted everything and wanted to grab onto everything. In the end, she could not grab onto anything. Sang Liang nodded thoughtfully. I think I understand. Ning Shu leaned back in her chair and crossed her arms. She raised her chin slightly and said, What do you understand? Tell me. Sang Liang said, I feel wronged. Wronged? A little. After all, things are unfair. I don't feel wronged. After all, I'm the one causing trouble. In fact, taking a step back would be a good thing. However, she did not want to retreat. What if she retreated to a corner and had nowhere to retreat? Offense was the best defense. She had to catch her opponent off guard. You want to save face, but I don't. I'm also a little fairy who loves her face. It's exciting to test the edge of danger. Sang Liang said, Then what do you want? Ning Shu shook her head. I have no desire for the organization. I don't dare to ask for anything. No desires? Sang Liang raised his eyebrows. Is it because the chips aren't up to your standards, or do you really have no desires? Ning Shu counted with his fingers and said, First, I don't have a nomological imprint. Since my nomological imprint has shattered, I haven't received any taxes and still have to worry about the city. Secondly, I don't need to purify your soul power. I'm not interested in how you purify your soul power. I'm currently adapting to devouring soul power. Thirdly, and most importantly, why am I being mocked and ridiculed for working so hard to deal with the star stones? Is dealing with star rocks like cleaning toilets? Otherwise, why are there so many people looking down on us? Since he wasn't respected by others, why did he have to suffer so much? Sang Liang pondered for a while and said, Probably some people are used to being lazy. When they see someone diligent, they call him a fool. Ning Shu clapped his hands. So that's how it is. Why are you all spoiling those people? Why are you all exploiting me like this? This is something that I have never been able to figure out. Please help me clear up my confusion. Sang Liang said. Probably because you're cuter. Ning Shu smiled. Thank you, but that's not the reason why you want me to work hard. Ning Shu stretched. Do you have anything else to say? If not, I'm leaving. Ning Shu stood up, but he was actually on guard to prevent Sang Liang from dragging him back to dry the candle. Furthermore, it was the kind of candle that would last for tens of thousands of years. She hadn't even lived for tens of thousands of years. Sang Liang said calmly, "Sit down. Why are you leaving when we haven't reached an agreement?" Ning Shu said, "I don't have anything to talk about. I think I understand what you're doing now. Do you want me to return to the organization?" Ning Shu shook his head. "But I don't want to go back at all. Otherwise, I'll leave with my tail between my legs after making such a mess and losing so much. I'll lose face." Now that she could directly absorb soul power to strengthen herself, why would she need to ask for pure soul power from the organization? Furthermore, she didn't need it. The organization was a channel that connected mission givers, and then the organization would take a cut. Everyone was mutually beneficial, and there was no need to talk about who would give who. Just like a company, they would improve based on performance and get more resources based on their ability. Ning Shu wanted to leave now. He didn't want to fight for this little bit of resources and wander around alone. The world was so big and he wanted to see it. The organization would probably say that the world was so big that he couldn't see it without money. Sang Liang raised his eyebrows. "You directly absorbed impure soul power." Ning Shu nodded. "Speaking of which, I don't want to believe it myself. I directly swallowed impure soul power and tortured myself for a long time." Sang Liang shamelessly asked, "How do you feel now?" "Nothing, it's like this." Ning Shu directly condensed a drop of black stuff. When this thing came out, the surrounding smell became a little strange. In fact, this thing was considered trash. Ning Shu seemed to have drunk impure water, and now the impurities in the water were precipitated and used for his own use. Sang Liang looked at the black drop of water and nodded. "Not bad. Actually, this is quite good, but not many people have the courage to do so. They rely too much on pure soul power." It was good to rely on it. Relying on it meant relying on the organization. In fact, mission enforcers were like harvesting leeks, wave after wave. Some died for various reasons, and some became stronger. Therefore, the organization didn't lack mission enforcers. It depended on whether this mission enforcer was worth keeping. If not, then there was no need to keep. Ning Shu: "Yes, so I have no desire for the organization. My dream is not to work and spend money." If he could spend money, why would he go to work? Was the world not beautiful enough? She calculated that when she went to every world, she would look for wandering souls. Maybe she could get more by doing missions. If she opened a studio, it would be enough for her to eat. It was so beautiful. The premise was that she could really leave the organization. Sang Liang's pale and slender fingers tapped on the book cover. Her nails were round and very carefully trimmed. A pair of beautiful hands. "Just say it. What do you want?" Ning Shu: "It depends on what the organization can give me. You don't even give me a price. How do you want me to know the value and whether it's worth it or not?" Sang Liang: "If you say what you want, the organization will consider giving you an answer." Ning Shu shook his head. "I said that I have no desire for the organization. I'm listening to you now because I want to know something. /BK. Chapter 32-35. Knowing that she had paid such a high price, what price would the organization pay to get her back? In fact, Ning Shu also knew that she was of little value. Her only use was to deal with the star stones. However, many people were unwilling to deal with the star stones. But if it was too much, the organization would not agree. She thought too highly of herself. Sang Liang said, "That depends on what you want." "Freedom, sorry, there is no such word in the organization. You have to be controlled here. Even if you leave the organization, you still have no freedom. Do you understand what I'm saying?" "Ning Shu, are you threatening me?" Ning Shu said, "Then what are we talking about?" "Talk about nothing. Wasting time, might as well open a studio." The studio had not opened yet. Sang Liang said, "Since you can absorb the soul power by yourself, then when you do missions in the future, you don't need to purify the souls of the clients. They all belong to you." Ning Shu did not say anything. She just spread her hands and did not express any opinion. Even if there were only 1 or 2 wandering souls in a world or plane, the soul power from doing a mission was still a lot. Some things could be compared. This seemed to give her a big pie, But for Ning Shu, it was not tempting at all. After all, she could get the soul power through other channels. The organization strictly controlled the soul power. In fact, there were many ways to get the soul power outside the organization. And she had the world of reincarnation. There were also wandering souls that had lost their minds in the world of reincarnation. They could also be absorbed. Right now, Ning Shu didn't care if her soul was clean or not. She didn't care if it was dirty or not. Ning Shu said, "Go on." Sang Liang said calmly, "Is the whole soul power of the client not enough for you?" Ning Shu shook her head. "I don't care if it's enough or not. I just don't care about this." The soul power was no longer under her control. Since it was a negotiation, then she should take out something that really tempted her. Take out something that would make her willing to stay in the organization. But she did not have it. And she lost 3 law imprints this time. Ning Shu did not expect the organization to return them to her. Anyway, the law imprints had collapsed. Sang Liang asked, "Is the world tree all right?" Ning Shu nodded. "It's pretty good." She had been in poor condition recently, which caused the world tree to be listless and not grow much. Sang Liang said, "The world tree can't form a world without something special." Ning Shu spread his hands. "I'm not organizing it anymore anyway. I don't care if the world tree forms a world or not. Even if it does, it'll only be a place for the creatures from the broken planes." In the past, Ning Shu heard that there was a world that wouldn't be easily erased, so he tried his best to create a world. Now, it seemed that there was a world that the organization felt could contain living beings from a shattered plane, and it would really increase their own weight. Only when something was valuable could it be measured. When his soul grew into a small sapling with a tinge of green, it purified the air and led a happy life. As for whether or not the world tree could grow into a world, it was up to fate whether or not it could grow into a world. In order to let his world tree leaf form a world, he stayed in the organization. After the world was formed, he moved the creatures of the broken plane into his own world. Ning Shu was speechless. What was he after? Would the foreign creatures speed up the decline of the world? Was it for merit? Now, Ning Shu had started to raise skeletons. If there was merit, he would eat it. If there wasn't merit, he would eat the fruit. When the fruit was gone, the skeleton's strength was about the same. It didn't matter. He was fine. When he didn't have any more requests or demands from you, it was time for him to really give up on you. The silver-haired man narrowed his eyes. "You have no desires. It seems that life and death are up to fate." Ning Shu said, "Life and death can still be salvaged. If I can live, why should I die? I'm not doing this for death. I'm living happily." Ning Shu smiled. "If there's nothing else, I'm leaving." The silver-haired man said, "So you're rejecting the organization?" Ning Shu nodded. "I'm not rejecting it. I actually hope to coexist peacefully. Let's be good neighbors and have a harmonious relationship." Neighbors. He was a neighbor, not a member of the organization. The silver-haired man shook his head. "You want to be free and stay outside of the organization, but you also want to benefit from the organization. There's no such thing in the world. You can either die or stay in the organization. The choice is yours. I'm talking to you now because I hope to resolve this peacefully and not with an intense dispute. I don't like fighting." Ning Shu asked, "Is there no third way?" The silver-haired man said calmly, "There is. You can resist stubbornly and get caught. You won't die for the time being, but you'll be punished." Ning Shu curled his lips. "That's quite overbearing. Can't mission enforcers leave the organization? Has no one ever left the organization?" "Yes, but it's back again. Some people are greedy. They want the organization's protection and freedom." Ning Shu said, "I don't want the organization's protection. The organization wants me to drift with the waves. They don't care about my life or death. I only choose one thing. I only want freedom. I don't want the organization's protection." There was no such thing as having the best of both worlds. Ning Shu hoped that they wouldn't care about her and would care about her death. The silver-haired man said, "You can't. You're more destructive than others. Even if you leave the organization, you'll still be monitored. Instead, because you're no longer in the organization, You'll be monitored even more strictly. Ning Shu spread his hands. Don't worry. I won't do things like murder, arson, or destroy the world. This kind of thing is time-consuming and laborious. Plus, it's useless to me. Destroying the world? He had nothing better to do. Ning Shu had never felt that she had to take revenge on the world because of her deep hatred. Tiring. She now wanted to be a Buddhist beauty, a carefree little fairy, and slowly strengthen herself. During this time, she didn't have to worry about the number of missions she had. She was called to deal with star stones. When she found something good, people came over like cats that smelled blood. If they had the ability, they could go find it themselves. What was the point of snatching what others found? They would scheme and make her hand over the things. If she couldn't even protect her own things, why did she need to be strong? What was the use of being strong? The silver-haired man said, "So, your world of faith has been resolved. How long can the law of nothingness last?" Ning Shu said, "I've collected a lot of star stones. If one day I really can't hold on anymore, I'll directly find the law of nothingness where Jingqing is and throw it in there. It'll fuse with the other law of nothingness. The law of nothingness has become bigger. Maybe it can even speed up the devouring of Jingqing and give birth to a new law C sooner, saving this dying law C/BK. Chapter 32-36. If the ultimate martial arts couldn't hold up in the end, Ning Shu would send the ultimate martial arts to a suitable place. Building a world was actually for the organization to install a world on ordinary creatures. She was no longer in the organization, so it didn't matter if there was a world or not. Ning Shu felt that everyone in the organization was talented. For example, the silver-haired man gave her something that didn't hurt her, but gave her the feeling that they were already accommodating her. If she still didn't agree, then she didn't know what was good for her and had no conscience. If someone who was usually bad to others suddenly became a little better, it would be flattering. She also had to comfort herself that he was such a person. He was already very good, very good. She shouldn't ask too much of him. Bottom lines were meant to be stepped on. The organization was stepping on Ning Shu's bottom line. When you asked for money, you talked about feelings. Look at how much the organization gave you. Without the organization, you wouldn't be where you are today. You should be grateful. Now, the organization was talking about feelings. And they were attacking her with something called morality. If leaving the organization meant death, then so be it. Ning Shu said happily, "You guys think so highly of me. I'm really quite important. Does my existence make you so uncomfortable?" If that was the case, then she had become an existence that made others uncomfortable. It was actually something worth celebrating. Thank you. This is an absolute compliment to my strength. Of course, this is all my own hard work. Ning Shu felt that she wouldn't destroy the world, and she wouldn't harass the organization for no reason. She didn't want to become enemies with the organization. But why did she become a dangerous person in the eyes of others? She couldn't figure it out. She really couldn't figure it out. The silver-haired man said indifferently, "You have the law of nothingness. If you're not satisfied, can you just pour it out?" Ning Shu said, "Don't worry, I don't have the ability to pour it out yet. Even if I could, I would pour it out in a reasonable place." Why would she use the law of nothingness on people who had no enmity with her, or even on planes? Why couldn't he understand? As long as they didn't provoke her, she was very obedient and charming. She had always been a talker, but she wouldn't do anything if she could. Now he was lazy. In the past, he would just attack whenever there was a disagreement. But now, she would also cry and fight. If he left the organization and became enemies with the organization, there was nothing he could do about it. So be it. Ning Shu held the peerless martial art in his hand and said, "Although this thing is very dangerous, if you don't let me, I will directly fall on your head." The silver-haired man said calmly, "What you're doing now will only make the organization's assessment of your danger level rise. At that time, you won't be returning to the organization. You'll just disappear." Ning Shu said, "Oh, then what do you want me to do? I'll send you all to die, okay?" The silver-haired man said, "Sit down. Let's talk." Ning Shu rolled his eyes. What was there to talk about? All they talked about was the same thing. What was there to talk about? Giving him something ambiguous and without any concrete operations, he wanted him to go back. Ning Shu could clearly feel the proliferation of the organization. She probably wasn't treated seriously enough by the organization, but they still wanted her to go back. It didn't make any difference whether she was there or not. So why did they want her to go back? Ning Shu felt his face burning as if he had been slapped. Well, they were all people who wanted to save face. She didn't need to save face. Ning Shu became calmer. What a waste of time. Ning Shu opened the black hole and stepped directly into it. He turned back and said to the silver-haired man, "Let's not talk about it. We can't talk about it at all. If the organization really wants to kill me, I will be ready for the arrival of the organization." The silver-haired man didn't say anything. He watched Ning Shu leave. Then he closed the book, lifted the curtain and went into the inner room. After returning to the world of reincarnation, Ning Shu personally checked the world of reincarnation again to see if he had missed any marks. Talks with the organization had failed again. The organization wouldn't let her go. She probably had the law of nothingness and was a dangerous person. After checking the world of reincarnation, Ning Shu went to the 9-Palace Mountain again. When he scanned the second level, he found the earthworm. The earthworm looked a little different. He must have changed his diet. Now he was as thin as a leech and as thin as a wire. His whole body was black. If it wasn't for the familiar wave, Ning Shu almost couldn't recognize him. Ning Shu used a branch to poke the earthworm. "Changed your diet? What did you eat? You lost so much weight?" The earthworm cursed Ning Shu in his heart. "You poked me the moment you saw me." Ning Shu said, "Yi Lin is dead. He said you pooped, so I knew you were still alive." Earthworm was a person who wouldn't fight with his life. Basically, he wouldn't die. The earthworm said, "He pooped. Anyway, it has nothing to do with me. I didn't kill him." Ning Shu said, "I didn't say you killed him. Did you have a fight with him?" Okay, but I couldn't beat him. He threw me over. I couldn't beat him, so I ran away," the earthworm said. Ning Shu said, "It's not good for me to comment on your actions." However, with a strong enemy in front of him, Yi Lin probably thought of sacrificing the earthworm to fight for a chance of survival. Moreover, he probably didn't expect the earthworm to actually be intelligent. He just drilled into the ground and ran away. The earthworm asked, "Have you seen Liren? After seeing so many people, I still think Liren is the cutest." Ning Shu was speechless. How was Liren cute? His own child was probably the cutest. The earthworm felt this way. Liren was not cute at all. Ning Shu asked, "He's still in this world. You changed your diet. Is there still poison?" "Of course there's poison. Besides, I choose poisonous things to eat. The purified ones are not bad. By the way, where's Liren? Is Liren still alive?" The earthworm sighed like an old father whose son didn't return home. Ning Shu said, "I don't know. I don't know how he is now. I guess he's still alive. Just like Liren, he was probably a scourge. Besides, Liren had a lot of opinions about her. He would definitely want to live and take revenge on her. After all, she had stabbed Liren and killed Liren. Liren held a grudge. He definitely wouldn't let her poop before taking revenge. Ning Shu said, "How are you doing in this world?" "It's neither good nor bad. It would be better if I were with Liren." Now that Yi Lin wasn't around, the earthworm was thinking about Liren. Sure enough, it found that Liren was the best. What kind of illusion was it that made the earthworm think that Liren was the best person in the world? How many filters did he have on his head? Ning Shu didn't let the earthworm follow her. Chapter 32-37. As long as the 9-Palace Mountain was in the world of reincarnation, she would bring the world of reincarnation with her wherever she went. It didn't matter whether she was by his side or not. Moreover, she could stay in the world of reincarnation if she had nothing to do. Creatures like earthworms couldn't live in the world of reincarnation. Their bodies would rot and eventually turn into souls. Ning Shu wandered around this world. The small workshops that produced soul fluid had almost disappeared. This world wouldn't produce soul fluid anymore. After wandering around a few worlds, he didn't find any markings. Ning Shu raised his hand and said to the skeletons, "Let's go. Let's go to the depths of the void. The further we go, the better. Retreat strategically first." Zhu Jun asked, "What about your shop?" Ning Shu said, "I don't care about the shop. Anyway, it's just like that. I'll come back after wandering around." Zhu Jun asked, "Then how do we get there?" Ning Shu laughed. "Anywhere is fine as long as we leave this place." Since she wouldn't die, she could just wander around. If she avoided the organization now, she wouldn't bump into them since she hadn't cultivated into a copper pea yet. The skeletons didn't have any objections. After all, they lived in the world of reincarnation. It didn't matter where they went. Ning Shu jumped out of the world of reincarnation. He was surrounded by the pitch-black void. Ning Shu walked in the dark void. There was really nothing in the void. There was no life, no business. There was only dust floating quietly. Ning Shu didn't know where to go. He just went with the flow and went wherever he should go. As for whether he could come back or not, it didn't matter at all. Maybe he could find a new place to live peacefully. Ning Shu felt that the organization wouldn't spend so much effort to find him. She was of little value and wasn't worth the organization spending so much effort on. As for whether the organization would be angry or not, who cares? Ning Shu walked step by step in the void. He didn't have a direction or a goal. He just went wherever he wanted to go. Occasionally, he would encounter some souls in the void. These souls didn't enter the world of reincarnation. They just floated in the void. That's right, he directly absorbed them into the world of reincarnation. Some souls without consciousness could be directly absorbed. However, the moment Ning Shu placed the souls inside, the surrounding space rippled slightly. "Who stole my souls?" The voice was very low and angry. It was a low male voice. Ning Shu was speechless. Could it be that these souls had a master? Ning Shu spoke to the void of space. "Who is it? Hurry up and come out. Hand over your soul, or I'll eat you." Why do so many people like to eat souls? Yes, she liked it too. A fox-like animal jumped out, its fluffy tail wagging. "You stole my soul." "What a contrast," said a man in a low voice. Ning Shu asked, "What are you?" The fox licked its claws and looked at Ning Shu with a pair of black eyes. "Despicable two-legged monster, give me back my food." "You stole it." Ning Shu said, "I didn't know this was your soul." "Now you know. Hurry up and return it to me or I'll eat you." Ning Shu said, "Where do you live? Where did these souls come from? What does it have to do with you? Hurry up and return it to me or I'll eat you." The fox's fur stood up. "Why is a piece of food so noisy?" Ning Shu waved the fox's claws. With a strong gust of wind, it directly pierced through Ning Shu's soul. Ning Shu didn't show any weakness. He took out the god-beating whip and whipped it at the fox. The tail of the whip swept the fox's fur, and the fox's fur stood up. "Despicable low-level creature, how dare you attack me?" The fox stood up. Because its fur stood up, the fox became fatter. "What low-level creature? I'm not a low-level creature." He met a fox here. It seemed to be a race that ate souls. "It's a low-level creature, food to be eaten." A human souls as food? What kind of world is this? It's interesting. Ning Shu picked up the fox and said to it, "Let's take a look at your world." The fox was grabbed by the back of its neck by Ning Shu. It struggled hard. "Let go of me. If you don't want to die, let go of me. Do you believe that I won't eat you? Let's go take a look." The fox had no choice. It created a whirlpool-like thing and brought Ning Shu to a strange world. There were all kinds of animals running around in this place. There were also people, but the people's necks were tied with chains and walked by all kinds of animals. There were also some animals that killed people at any time and then absorbed the soul power. As humans, these humans didn't have the arrogance of the leaders of living creatures. "Did you see that? Two-legged monsters are food here. How dare you steal my food?" From the looks of it, the people in this place were at the lower end of the food chain. These animals ate human souls. Humans were at the lower end of the food chain. There were also some animals that kept humans in captivity, like how humans kept pigs. It felt like the food chain in this place was completely reversed. Interesting. In the past, It was humans who ate all kinds of animals. Now, it was animals who ate humans and ate human souls. Not only did they eat souls, there were also people who ate hearts, livers, spleens, lungs, and kidneys. Some animals like to eat human livers. In order to get a fat liver, the animals that kept humans in captivity would try their best to stuff things into the human's mouth, making fatty livers that tasted great. "Give me back my food." The fox exploded. Ning Shu said, "It's already in my world. It won't be easy to find it." Ning Shu asked, "Where is this place?" Ning Shu could feel that this was definitely not a plane connected to the Sea of Law, because she was walking in the opposite direction from the plane. She couldn't just go around in a circle and end up here. So, this was not the plane where the Sea of Law was born. In other words, other than the Sea of Law, there were other worlds. How far did she walk? Where is this place at? The fox sneered, "As a food, you should have the awareness of being a food." Ning Shu shook the fox's fur and said, "Where is this place?" "What place?" "It's a place where we live. Is there a problem?" The fox struggled. "Let go of me or I'll eat you." The fox opened its mouth and revealed its sharp teeth. It bit Ning Shu's other hand. It directly bit a hole in Ning Shu's hand, and even bit 2 of his fingers. Quite a temper. Ning Shu held the fox and swung it in a circle. The fox was dizzy from being swung, and foam came out of its mouth. It was so disgusted that it vomited. Chapter 32-38. Seeing these life forms, Ning Shu felt as if he had not left the plane. Could it be that other than the Sea of Law, other seas of law had been born? The Sea of Law was not unique. Ning Shu thought as he shook the fox. He felt that she should have left the plane very far away. If there was really such a place next to him, he should have discovered it long ago. "Don't shake it, don't shake it," the fox said weakly. Ning Shu grabbed the fox's neck and made it look at him. "Do you also have a Sea of Law here? If there really was a Sea of Law, why didn't Grand Uncle drain it? Wouldn't it be good if he did? Maybe he couldn't drain it at all. I don't know what you're talking about. Let go of me." The fox struggled. It was very unhappy with Ning Shu's insubordination. Its fur all over its body fluffed up. Probably because it was caught by a food, it felt quite embarrassed. Even its fur turned red. The fox waved its claws, and the sharp claws created strong winds that pierced through Ning Shu's soul. "Why aren't you dead yet? Die quickly." The fox waved its claws desperately. Ning Shu said, "You can't kill me." It was like poking someone with a toothpick. There was no lethality. "What kind of food are you? Are you mutated?" The fox stuck out its tongue and licked its beard. "I don't know how a mutated soul tastes like. I want to taste it." Ning Shu chuckled and was about to break the fox's neck. The fox immediately cried out, let go, I won't eat you." Ning Shu said, "I'm asking you a question, so you'd better answer honestly. Otherwise, I'll break your little neck. You like to eat human souls, and I also like to devour the souls of mission creatures, especially foxes. Foxes are cunning and charming. I wonder if I'll increase my charm if I eat you." "Pervert," Ning Shu asked, "do you know that there are billions of worlds next door?" "What the hell? I've never heard of it. I just stole a few souls and wanted to run away, but you saw me. I'm just hungry and want to eat something." In the end, he was a thief, and what he stole was souls. Humans were at the bottom of the food chain. Their bodies and souls were devoured by all kinds of creatures. As for the creatures that devoured souls, their souls either went to the world of samsara or were devoured by other creatures. Ning Shu asked, "Then how many worlds do you have here? Is there a Sea of Law?" The fox struggled. "I don't know what you're talking about. I don't understand what you're saying. Let me go. Otherwise, if I scream and attract my people, you won't be able to escape. I advise you not to take things too hard." Ning Shu did not let go of the fox. Instead, he turned invisible and carried the fox around. This world was relatively primitive. There were animals everywhere. These animals would kill humans and suck their beautiful souls. There were also some animals that kept humans in captivity. Ning Shu asked, "How did you get into the void?" How could he break through the bit wall if he didn't have some ability? I don't know what you're talking about. This is the ability of the Fox clan. It can spread very far. It stole souls and would always go to a place where there was no one to enjoy. I've already told you. Now you should let me go. The fox's eyes rolled around. Ning Shu replied with an "Oh. Wait for a while. Once I leave, I will naturally let you go." Maybe there were many worlds here, and there was a sea of law. 3,000 big worlds and billions of small worlds. Maybe the sea of law that was born was just a speck of dust in the big world. Maybe it was a crop in a large piece of land. And those monster rats were like locusts, eating the crops. Ning Shu was stunned by the scene he imagined. If that was really the case, then how small was he? So small that he couldn't see it. The world was unimaginably vast. Then when are you leaving? The fox sneered. You still want to leave? Keep dreaming. As long as it was a soul, it would be devoured. There would always be a powerful creature that would devour you. He could only blame himself for not being strong enough. Ning Shu pondered. As expected, the sea of stars was very big. And these animals were also gifted. In that world, humans were the leader of all creatures. They could treat other creatures as they wished and eat them. But here, the position was completely reversed. Humans had become the most miserable existence. But Ning Shu wouldn't think of joining forces with the humans here to do something big. After all, the rules of this world were like that. Maybe after a few thousand years, humans would become serfs and become the top of the food chain. No one could say for sure. But now, humans were similar to pigs. If you told a pig to rise up and contribute to the entire human race, it would be a miracle if a pig could understand. It was probably because they were at the bottom of the food chain that their intelligence was relatively low. Ning Shu carried the fox and walked around the world. He was a little surprised. Some animals would command humans to build houses. Ning Shu felt that these animals were courting death. Although humans were not intelligent, they were the most creative creatures. Although they didn't have sharp claws, they knew how to use tools. If they let humans build houses now, perhaps not long later, humans would rule this world. There was no choice. Anyway, it was either the east wind suppressing the west wind or the west wind suppressing the east wind. Ning Shu didn't find any treasures in this world, so he let the fox go and left. He continued to wander. After that, Ning Shu didn't find any other worlds. Perhaps that world was more magical. But Ning Shu bumped into a wave of army. And it was a face-to-face encounter. It was really awkward to look at each other like this. Ning Shu already recognized that this was the monster army that he had fought before. It seemed that they were going somewhere again. It was pitch black in front of them. She was alone. It was so scary. Ning Shu wanted to greet them and say that he was passing by. He had dealt with these soul-eating armies before. What could he do if he couldn't win? Ning Shu pretended to be strolling and slipped away from the locust-like monster army. However, there was a snap of fingers. Then, the army surrounded Ning Shu. Ning Shu said with a smile, "I'm just passing by. You can pretend that you didn't see me." Could it be that these monsters didn't have a fixed position, but walked around to eat and rob? These monsters that evolved by eating were very tall and strong. Their defensive abilities were also very strong. Their bodies were glowing with a metallic luster. There were so many of them. Even if there were 2,000 skeletons, they wouldn't be a match for them. Ning Shu decisively raised his hand and said, "I surrender. I want to see your king. I know your king." Chapter 32-39. Brother Emperor, are you still there? Have you been swallowed by the rats? These monsters can eat a lot of things, even the corpses of their own kind, to achieve their goal of evolution. Although Li Wen was only a weak human, at least he had some relationship with the king of this race. With another snap of his fingers, the monsters immediately shrank the encirclement and surrounded the trembling Ning Shu. Ning Shu was speechless. If you have something to say, say it. Don't keep snapping your fingers. Do you think this is cool? It's not cool at all. These monsters wanted to catch Ning Shu, but Ning Shu did not struggle. If they really wanted to kill him, they would not be driving like this. Ning Shu was caught on the middle ship. Although it was a ship, the ship was completely dragged by the monsters. Ning Shu stood on the deck and snapped his fingers again. Ning Shu was a little speechless. Who knows what you're going to say when you snap your fingers? However, Ning Shu still walked into the ship. The cabin was very big, and the decorations inside were quite exquisite. There were many people inside, and they were all naked. They did not have any physical characteristics, and it was hard to tell if they were male or female. In the middle was the king of this race. He still looked the same. He had not changed or aged, and he was wearing clothes. Beside him sat Li Wen. Li Wen's aura was much stronger than before. His aura was also deeper. It was obvious that Li Wen was much stronger now. He's not dead, and he's much stronger. This is a good thing. The king looked at Ning Shu. You chased me here. Ning Shu said, I didn't. I was just passing by. Whether you believe it or not, I believe it. Haven't you always been in the Sea of Laws? Why are you here alone? Li Wen asked. Ning Shu sighed and said, No, don't mention it. Something happened in the middle. It's teary to talk about it. Brother Emperor, how have you been? Did anyone bully you? It was not easy for Li Wen, who was from an alien race, to live here. These monsters could even devour planes. How could they take a liking to a bug living in a plane? Only the living beings in the plane could be considered true Earth-class living beings. If even planes were food, then humans would at most be little bugs in the cabbage. Calling them little bugs was an overstatement. Li Wen said gently, Fortunately, I'm doing well. You don't look very well. Ning Shu smiled gently and awkwardly. I have a bad temper and bad manners. That's why we ended up like this. Li Wen asked, Do you have any plans next? Ning Shu said, No, I'm just looking around. Li Wen looked at Wang beside him. Little Mouse looked unhappy. My temple is small. It can't accommodate such a bad-tempered Buddha. Li Wen didn't look at the little mouse anymore. Instead, she looked at Ning Shu. Why can't you go home? I'll help you explain. Ning Shu spread his hands and said, Seriously speaking, it's not really a big deal. Are you going back? I'll go with you. Ning Shu was a little surprised. Are you sure you want to go with me? Aren't you afraid that someone will catch you? In any case, Li Wen was on the mouse's side. It would be best if she was caught. The little silver mink sneered. It would be best if they caught me. Then I can go over there and eat planes legitimately. I'm just afraid that they won't catch me. Ning Shu, okay, you have more people. You think you're so good? Li Wen wanted to send him back. Ning Shu asked curiously, Why are you sending me back? Are you going to put in a good word for me? It's useless. Strictly speaking, they were on opposite sides. One wanted to guard, while the other wanted to eat. They would definitely fight. Li Wen nodded. Since you don't have anywhere to go, then go back. It's not good to be floating in the void alone. Alright, you're so annoying. You just want me to make her stay, right? Alright, you stay. Why do you have to beat around the bush for such a trivial matter? The little silver mink's face was full of impatience, but at least he had made Ning Shu stay. Li Wen smiled. If I were to say it directly, you would be even more unhappy. Where can a little girl like her go? Li Wen waved at Ning Shu. Sister, come here. I'll take a look at you. Ning Shu walked over. Li Wen looked Ning Shu up and down. You've changed a lot. You're not the same as before. Ning Shu, I've changed my sex a few times. No, I mean I've transformed a few times. I'm not the same as before. Where are you going next? Ning Shu asked curiously. The little silver mink glanced at Ning Shu. Just stay here. Don't run away if you don't want to be eaten. Also, don't call me Brother Emperor. It's disgusting. We're not siblings. Even if we're not siblings, we're close. We used to be siblings. That's an ironclad fact. The little silver mink gritted his teeth. Be careful with your words. There are many people on this ship who want to eat you. Ning Shu looked around at the people in the cabin. They were all naked and had no physical characteristics. They looked at Ning Shu with hostility. One of them stood up and said, King, why do you keep a lowly human here? It's fine if there's one, but why do you keep another? The little silver mink glanced at his subordinate. What's the big deal? Keeping her here means we're tolerant. If she doesn't listen, we can just eat her. It's so troublesome. Then, the subordinate looked shocked. King, you're right. Ning Shu. These people probably had evolved bodies but not brains, or they were the Little Silver Mink's diehard fans. No matter what the Little Silver Mink said, they looked shocked. Even though the Little Silver Mink was a human and was wearing clothes, Ning Shu couldn't help but imagine him looking like a mouse. He just didn't know if he had any physical characteristics. Ning Shu tried his best not to look at the little mouse's crotch. Instead, he looked at Li Wen. Li Wen was very calm. Clearly, she had experienced a lot. She looked at Ning Shu and smiled. She didn't say anything else. King said to Ning Shu, "Since you're a friend, you can stay on the ship. The deck is your seat. Don't expect a room. Do you know how difficult it is to get on this ship?" Ning Shu nodded. "It's not easy to get on this ship. Then why are you still standing here? Go to the deck," the little mouse said to Ning Shu. Ning Shu nodded and turned to leave the cabin. He stood on the deck. This race was too big. There were teams everywhere in the endless void. Where were these teams going? Had this race always been wandering? Wherever there was a plane to nibble? Ning Shu stood on the deck and looked at the endless variety of strange-looking insects. Chapter 3240. These bugs were all different. If there was one that was the same, it would be the people in the cabin. They had the appearance of a person but no gender characteristics. A mountain-like monster bug with many hands was pulling the ship. Li Wen walked to the deck and looked at the endless void. He stood side by side with Ning Shu and said, "I won't ask why you left. It's really dangerous for you to explore the void alone. There are all kinds of things in the void, all kinds of dangers, and all kinds of creatures that have never been heard of before." Ning Shu asked, "Where are you going?" "I'm going anywhere and strolling around. If there's a plane, these bugs will start devouring it." Ning Shu was a little surprised. "Don't you have a place to live?" "There are, but they're all temporary places to stay. It doesn't matter if there's one or not." Ning Shu asked, "Then there are many places with planes?" "That's right. After a wheat field is finished, you'll go to the next one." "How are planes born?" Ning Shu asked. "Are they all born from the Sea of Laws?" Li Wen shook his head. "There are different ways of birth. Some are worlds born from the Sea of Laws and some are not. Have you seen endless towering trees?" Ning Shu shook his head. Is this a world?" "Yes, it's a world. This is what these bugs like to eat the most." Ning Shu said, "Oh, why?" "Because no one organizes a defense. This kind of place where people can take whatever they want is the most convenient for bugs. What if there's a defense? Think of the plane we were born in." Ning Shu asked again. "Then it will definitely take a lot of effort to take it down. If they can't get any benefits, they will still retreat." Ning Shu rubbed his chin and thought. What's the meaning of these bugs being born? Since they existed, there must be something that counters each other. So the meaning of these bugs being born is to eat planes? The meaning of being born is to eat these planes. Why don't you think in another direction? Why don't you treat these planes as crops and these bugs as reapers? When the time comes, it's time to harvest. Ning Shu, I can't imagine. What's the point of harvesting? Ning Shu asked. Li Wen thought for a moment and said, maybe it's to reduce the burden of the place where the plane was born. There's life and there's death. If you die, you can be reborn. Ning Shu, it's a bit profound, I don't understand. If you treat these planes as burdens or parasites, then these bugs eating the parasites is a benefit. Ning Shu, according to what you said, is it wrong for someone to guard a plane? Planes were actually parasites? This analogy really made Ning Shu feel like his worldview had collapsed. He originally thought that he was experienced and knowledgeable, but this kind of situation was something that he hadn't expected. Of course, I can't say that. I can only say that the existence of the plane has more or less an influence. I can't say that the Guardian is wrong. The plane is destined to die. These protectors can be considered doctors. They should help treat it. They can't possibly refuse to see a doctor when they know they're going to die, right? And the birth plane is the Sea of Law. The mission of the World Tree is to give birth to planes until they die. Some people are born, and some people are destroyed. There's no right or wrong. Ning Shu nodded. He couldn't say that the existence of hospitals was wrong. No one was willing to walk towards death. Do you see that place? Li Wen pointed ahead. There was a huge tree with no end in sight. The tree seemed to have grown out of thin air. It was so huge that no one knew where it extended to. Is it a plane? Ning Shu saw that these bugs were beginning to become irritable. Obviously, this tree was full of temptation to these bugs. Pa! As soon as the finger snapped, these bugs flew over. These bugs were smaller than ants in front of the tree. They were as small as fine sand, but these fine sand quickly covered the tree. Sha-sha. Like silkworms nibbling on mulberry leaves, the tree was eaten just like that. The tree shook its body in pain. Obviously, this tree had no one guarding it. In the face of such an attack, it could only bear the pain and walk towards death. Although it swayed its branches and even began to self-destruct, it could only hurt some of the bugs. More bugs were nibbling away at its body. As long as these bugs didn't even appear, the people in the cabin would be fine. The tree was about to be devoured clean. Ning Shu had goosebumps all over his body. He had trypophobia. Now that he saw the bugs densely covering the tree like sand, he felt uncomfortable. The trunk and leaves of this tree were all eaten. There was a green thing in the middle of the tree. These bugs carried the green tree heart to the front of the boat and respectfully presented it. The people in the cabin stretched out countless tentacles and pulled the tree heart into the cabin. It was green, especially cool, and especially forgiving. From afar, one could feel a surge of power. It was strong, gentle, and gave birth to all things. This tree heart was not big. It had an irregular shape. Ning Shu asked, "What is this?" "It's this power that can give birth to planes, give birth to living beings, a sea of law, the foundation of a world tree." Ning Shu nodded. "Is it the Sea of Law stone?" Ning Shu remembered that he seemed to have the Sea of Law stone, but he didn't bring it with him. However, he wanted to take the important thing. The stone was probably in some corner. She had forgotten. Li Wen asked, "What is that?" Ning Shu said, "How should I explain it? Anyway, it's something in the Sea of Law." Li Wen shook his head. "It shouldn't be. If the Sea of Law doesn't have a power core, it will directly wither and collapse. The stone you're talking about is not it." Ning Shu guessed that it was not. After all, the organization would not casually give such an important thing to the mission enforcers. As for the use of that thing, Ning Shu did not know. Anyway, it was left in a corner to collect dust. She had left the organization, and the things in the system space had probably been taken away by the organization. Ning Shu heard crunching sounds in the cabin and asked, "They just gnawed on it like that? Otherwise, do they have to cook it?" Brother, you're getting more and more humorous," Ning Shu said. "Can you swallow this thing?" They were eating inside, and Li Wen was standing outside. He felt a little awkward. Li Wen shook his head. "Without that stomach, I can't digest it. The racial advantage can't be compared." Ning Shu looked at the cabin with some envy. A powerful force that gave birth to a plane. The silver-haired man said that her world tree was missing something. Was it this? Chapter 3241. Human bodies were fragile, and their lifespans were not long. The time they lived was not even as long as the time others slept. Although humans had unlimited creativity, their foundation was quite weak. It was a little difficult to catch up with these gifted existences in terms of strength. Li Wen said, "There's nowhere else to go other than following. Do we return to the plane?" That was true. After seeing so much, he was still at ease in a plane. Obviously, a plane was not enough for Li Wen to play with. It might not even be able to withstand Li Wen's strength. Ning Shu could only feel that Li Wen was quite strong now, but he did not know what he was cultivating. He just did not know if his soul was tough. After traveling to so many places, he must have obtained a lot of good things. Now, the team set off toward the endless void and encountered all kinds of planes. Some planes grew on trees, some were seas, and some were like dust floating everywhere. Some core forces were protected. Of course, If these bugs wanted to eat the planes or seize the core forces, they would definitely be stopped. Ning Shu stood on the deck and saw waves after waves of water surging past. Although there were people stopping them, the defense line would soon be unable to hold on. Ning Shu remembered that he had once been a member of the team that stopped these bugs. It was really hard to fight. The other party was big and had strong defense. Once they could not hold on, the planes behind them would all be devoured. At that time, he thought that these bugs would eat the planes, but if they really broke through, these bugs would not hesitate to seize the power in the Sea of Law. It was fine if there were people guarding such power. In fact, the people living in the planes knew nothing about the outside world, let alone what kind of situation they were facing. They brushed past death and annihilation, but it was obvious that this wave of protection was not very good. It was quickly broken through, like a flood breaking through a dam, unstoppable. These bugs pounced on the planes and devoured them. Everyone was in despair, but the situation was already over and there was no way to reverse it. The locusts swallowed all the planes and dug away the core forces. This kind of thing was, of course, offered to the leaders in the cabin. None of the bugs dared to swallow this power, even though this power was full of power for the little bugs. Ning Shu turned to look at Li Wen. The light from the plane's explosion illuminated her face, making her look extremely solemn. He felt Ning Shu's gaze and turned to look at her. Look, even the world is so fragile. Ning Shu also looked at the plane that was wailing and collapsing. It is indeed very fragile. Perhaps to the living beings in the planes, the world was the sturdiest nest, but to the insects, these planes were like crispy corners. They were crunchy and tasted like chicken. Perhaps insects were the ones at the top of the food chain. Ning Shu remembered that the organization said that a war like this would break out every 3,000 years to defend against these insects. In fact, these insects were drifting with the flow. Even if they passed by, they might not be able to return. Could it be that the void was round and he could walk back? The void should not be so small. Moreover, it would take a long time to be born. For example, the Sea of Laws had to be formed first. Then, the Sea of Laws would slowly form the plane. It would take some time for the plane to form a living world. The growth and development could not keep up with the speed of the insects devouring. Ning Shu asked, other than these insects, are there any others? There should be others. Anyway, they come in waves. Sometimes, some of them are left alone and form other teams, Li Wen said. Oh, Ning Shu replied. She felt a little bitter. Perhaps they would have to face wave after wave of insects. These insects had big appetites and were big. It was not easy to fill them up. Li Wen said, although they have the heart to protect, they don't have the strength to protect. It's better to be ignorant and be destroyed. Sometimes, ignorance was bliss. Ning Shu asked, what if we can't break through? Will we negotiate? These insects will not be satisfied if they don't get something wherever they go. As long as their appetites are filled, it will be fine, Li Wen said indifferently. The insects did not want to waste their strength for nothing. Ning Shu nodded and stood side by side with Li Wen on the deck. They watched as the planes were devoured one by one. They did not know what to say. They said that the insects were cruel and heartless. To them, it was natural that they were born to eat such things. I want to eat. I want to eat. You love life so much. Can you bear to watch us starve to death? In short, this was an unsolvable problem. Ning Shu followed the team and wandered in the endless void. He watched as planes were devoured one after another. One power core after another was carried into the cabin. Ning Shu had never touched such a power before. She didn't know what it felt like. She looked at the people in the cabin and didn't do anything. If there was nothing to do, they would snap their fingers and whistle to give orders. Then they would just wait to eat. It was such a comfortable life. Li Wen would occasionally talk to the little mouse. Otherwise, he would stand on the deck with Ning Shu. Until now, Ning Shu was still a little confused about the relationship between the little mouse and Li Wen. When he got closer, there did not seem to be any romantic atmosphere between the two of them. Li Wen and the little mouse were both indifferent. Could it be that she did not notice the undercurrent of spring? She and Li Wen were both outside, but the little mouse was not angry. This did not make sense. Ning Shu was scratching his heart and lungs. He wanted to ask, but he also knew that it was not suitable for him to ask such questions. Moreover, many insects ignored Li Wen. This meant that Li Wen's position in this team was not very high. Probably seeing that Ning Shu was uncomfortable, Li Wen took the initiative to say, "Ask whatever you want." Ning Shu immediately said, "You asked me to ask this." Li Wen. "Why do I feel that the little mouse doesn't like you now?" Ning Shu asked. "Are you wronged here?" Li Wen just said, "He has that temper. He's like a child. He'll be happy one moment and unhappy the next. He'll be fine after a while." A child's temper. Did that mean that the mouse's IQ was only at the level of a child? If you don't feel wronged, why should I feel wronged? There are some things that you don't have to care about. It's better to be ignored by these insects without intelligence. Ning Shu looked at Li Wen. She was really open-minded and did not care. Perhaps others would be sad because of this disregard, but Li Wen was obviously not such a person. Instead, she felt close. Because of Li Wen, Ning Shu's treatment was upgraded from the deck to the cabin. However, seeing these insects eating, Ning Shu felt uncomfortable. All kinds of strange insects were lying on top of the core power and gnawing on things. They were too ugly and disgusting. Could it be that being ugly was also a kind of power? Li Wen was obviously used to it. He was extremely calm and didn't even raise his eyelids. He was wildly cheering for his experienced and knowledgeable imperial brother. Seeing the power radiating from these core powers, Ning Shu really wanted to touch it. But Little Mouse watched her very strictly. Could it be that he saw that she had a plan for these powers? Who said that Little Mouse had no IQ? He was obviously very smart and could see that she had bad intentions. Ning Shu restrained her gaze and tried not to look at those powers. When Little Mouse saw Ning Shu acting this way, he sneered instead. What was she pretending for? At first, it was Little Mouse who stared at Ning Shu. Later, it developed to everyone in the cabin staring at Ning Shu. "Ning Shu, why are you looking at me?" Ning Shu touched her face. "Do you think I'm very beautiful?" Little Mouse rolled his eyes. "Get out." Ning Shu, she didn't know how she had offended this young master. No, she didn't know whether it was young master or young miss. Yin-yang people. Ning Shu went out of the cabin. There were so many people looking at her inside. She felt that they were coveting her beauty. Standing on the deck and looking at the endless void, she felt much better. It was not a waste to come out like this. And when these insects were eating the plane, she also gained some benefits. That was, she collected some soul power. Although most of the creatures were annihilated when the plane collapsed, she could still collect some. Although it was not much, it was better than nothing. Now that her soul was not strong, it was really time for her to use soul power. Li Wen walked to Ning Shu's side and handed Ning Shu a rolled scroll. Ning Shu took it and looked at it. It was actually a road map, and it also marked the location of the birthplaces of some planes. Some places were crossed out. Li Wen said, "The crosses mean that they were swallowed. The ones without crosses mean that they are still there. Our birthplace is here." Li Wen pointed to the place on the scroll. Ning Shu turned to look at Li Wen. "You even recorded this?" "I had nothing to do, so I wanted to see if there was any pattern to the path these insects took. Now that I think about it, I thought too much. They just go with the flow. If they encounter a plane, they will eat it and keep migrating. But you should go back. This is not a place where you should stay. Little Mouse doesn't like you. It's not a good thing that the king of a race doesn't like you." Ning Shu also knew that she had to leave. Little Mouse stared at her with a strange look every day. Ning Shu asked, "Then are you going to stay here forever? Is there a more powerful race than this? Brainlessly powerful." Ning Shu. "I don't think I've seen it." But it did not rule out that there was none. And there was no end to the void. Who knew what kind of strange creatures would be born in a place where a plane was born? Some creatures were brainlessly powerful, and it was impossible to catch up to them even if you flattered them. Racial superiority was something that made people gnash their teeth in hatred. Your end point was someone else's starting point. So, Ning Shu took down the scroll and said, "Thank you, brother." With this scroll, they basically wouldn't get lost. However, these rats had gone to many places. This scroll was densely packed with blood-red pitchforks. Li Wen took out a core power energy body and handed it to Ning Shu. "Didn't you want it? Take it." Ning Shu did not accept it. She asked, "If you give this to me, will Little Mouse scold you?" This feeling was like a poor brother living under someone else's roof. He secretly got something from the owner to help his poor sister. "It's okay." He agreed. He heard that this little thing can send you away. He was very happy, Li Wen said. Chapter 3243. Ning Shu was speechless. She probably didn't get along with the mouse. She was the one who discovered the mouse first, but the mouse got along well with Li Wen. Ning Shu accepted the fist-sized crystal. This thing was no different from a crystal. There was a trickle of power in his hand. It was not turbulent or sharp. Instead, it was very comfortable. If it was bigger, it would be more comfortable to use as a pillow. Ning Shu smiled at Li Wen. "Thank you, brother. See you again." Li Wen nodded. "See you again. You don't have to be polite when you meet. Do you want to go back to that plane?" Ning Shu thought for a moment and said, "I will go back." In this situation, he wouldn't go back for the time being. She still wanted to continue to play, but she wouldn't play with these bugs. After all, she didn't feel good being stared at every day. Ning Shu smiled and said, "Brother, you've already given me something. I don't have anything to give you. This is for you. Eat it and it can strengthen your soul." Ning Shu took out a few kidney-strengthening fruits. "This thing is not bad. It can strengthen your soul. I was going to give you a few before leaving. Now that you've given me something, I'll give it to you." Li Wen nodded. Then she accepted a few kidney-strengthening fruits that were as black as iron balls. Ning Shu felt that the appearance of the kidney-strengthening fruit was really a little unpresentable. They didn't look very good. Ning Shu put away the crystal. Just as he was about to say goodbye to Li Wen, the little mouse's voice sounded again. "If you want to leave, leave quickly. Why are you dawdling?" Ning Shu said, "I'm afraid of the dark. I can't leave now." The little mouse looked at Ning Shu. "Nonsense. The sky is not dark. Stop talking and get lost." Ning Shu said, "You're really annoying. I'm here to see my brother, but you're scowling at him. What do you think my brother will think? How do you think my brother will feel good?" Li Wen looked at Ning Shu silently and didn't say anything. "What do you mean by that?" Little Mouse's hair stood on end. Ning Shu shook his head and said, "If you don't give me face, you're not giving my brother face. You're making my brother very embarrassed." Little Mouse's expression was a little conflicted as he looked at Li Wen. Li Wen still didn't say anything and just watched the two of them quarrel. The little mouse asked Li Wen, "Are you really embarrassed?" Ning Shu was speechless. As expected, he saw IQ suppression. There was no point in bullying a child, especially a child who was holding an atomic bomb. If she was unhappy, she would throw the atomic bomb at her. Ning Shu got off the boat and waved at Li Wen. "Brother, I'm leaving. Take care of yourself." Ning Shu wanted to say, "Come find me if you have nothing to do." However, when he thought of the endless worms behind Li Wen, he swallowed his words. Don't look for him if you don't have anything to do. The insect army was still moving forward. Ning Shu stood in place and watched the insects gradually disappear like a tide. He let out a breath. Where should he go next? Ning Shu took out the scroll. It was easy to find the way back with the route recorded on the scroll. However, Ning Shu didn't want to go back so early. Let's wander around. Let's see the scenery that I've never seen before. Ning Shu walked while studying the energy body that Li Wen gave him. How to use this thing? Can it be directly absorbed? Probably not. If it could be absorbed, Li Wen would have absorbed it himself. Li Wen didn't seem to have any desire for this thing. Probably human souls really couldn't absorb it. Ning Shu wandered around in the void, occasionally comparing the scrolls with each other. However, Li Wen's scroll wasn't a map. It only recorded the route and couldn't point out the direction. Ning Shu put away the map. Anyway, wherever he drifted, it was up to fate. However, as he wandered, Ning Shu encountered a group of souls. These souls were extremely solid. Ning Shu looked around. Such a group of souls had suddenly appeared, and they were so powerful. Ning Shu thought that he might be hallucinating. These people also saw Ning Shu. They walked over and asked, "You were sent by the organization. What's the matter?" Ning Shu asked, "Who are you? You're not here to find something?" One of them asked. Ning Shu shook her head. "No, I wandered here. Are you from the organization? Do you know Taishu? Since you know Taishu, you must be from the organization." Ning Shu nodded immediately. "Then we know each other. What are you doing here?" Mission enforcers had come to the void. Ning Shu had always thought that mission enforcers wouldn't leave the organization. However, what were these people doing here? These people looked at Ning Shu suspiciously and asked, "Did the organization ask you to pass a message?" Ning Shu shook her head and said, "I just came to the void. I didn't pass a message." Ning Shu originally wanted to ask why they were gathered here, but it seemed that he had left the organization. It was difficult to ask, so Ning Shu didn't ask. The mission enforcers on the other side were speechless. Seeing that Ning Shu's soul was so weak, they didn't know what to say. "In that case, you can leave," a man said to Ning Shu. Although Ning Shu was curious about what these people were doing here, she still left. "Wait." A woman called out to Ning Shu. "You can stay. We don't have enough people anyway." Ning Shu nodded immediately. Only by staying could she know what these people were doing. Moreover, even if they wanted to use her as cannon fodder, they had to let her know something. Although they might not tell her anything. Ning Shu and a group of people squatted in the void. Moreover, they didn't speak to each other and were very quiet. Ning Shu couldn't help but ask, "What are we doing?" "Waiting." Someone replied concisely to Ning Shu's question. Of course they knew they were waiting. The question was, what were they waiting for? Seeing the solemn expressions on these people's faces, they couldn't be waiting for something to be born, right? Something was born in the void. There was the sea of law and the power of the plane. Could it be that they were here for the core power? If the sea of law couldn't hold on, then new power would be needed to replenish it. Then these people were here for the things in her pocket. But most of these things had already entered the stomach of the rats. There was basically nothing extra. She didn't know if the rats would have excrement after eating these things. What was the excrement? Could it be that during the war, the organization collected these corpses for this kind of power? Ning Shu felt that his guess was probably not far from the mark. They were probably here for the core power. Looking around, Ning Shu didn't find anything. The surroundings were pitch black. What were they waiting for? The atmosphere was somewhat stagnant. Ning Shu obediently waited for something to break out of the ground. Chapter 3244. Ning Shu was speechless. She probably didn't get along with the mouse. She was the one who discovered the mouse first, but the mouse got along well with Li Wen. Ning Shu accepted the fist-sized crystal. This thing was no different from a crystal. There was a trickle of power in his hand. It was not turbulent or sharp. Instead, it was very comfortable. If it was bigger, it would be more comfortable to use as a pillow. Ning Shu smiled at Li Wen. "Thank you, brother. See you again." Li Wen nodded. "See you again. You don't have to be polite when you meet. Do you want to go back to that plane?" Ning Shu thought for a moment and said, "I will go back." In this situation, he wouldn't go back for the time being. She still wanted to continue to play, but she wouldn't play with these bugs. After all, she didn't feel good being stared at every day. Ning Shu smiled and said, "Brother, you've already given me something. I don't have anything to give you. This is for you. Eat it and it can strengthen your soul." Ning Shu took out a few kidney-strengthening fruits. "This thing is not bad. It can strengthen your soul. I was going to give you a few before leaving. Now that you've given me something, I'll give it to you." Li Wen nodded. Then she accepted a few kidney-strengthening fruits that were as black as iron balls. Ning Shu felt that the appearance of the kidney-strengthening fruit was really a little unpresentable. They didn't look very good. Ning Shu put away the crystal. Just as he was about to say goodbye to Li Wen, The little mouse's voice sounded again. If you want to leave, leave quickly. Why are you dawdling? Ning Shu said, I'm afraid of the dark. I can't leave now. The little mouse looked at Ning Shu. Nonsense. The sky is not dark. Stop talking and get lost. Ning Shu said, You're really annoying. I'm here to see my brother, but you're scowling at him. What do you think my brother will think? How do you think my brother will feel good? Li Wen looked at Ning Shu silently and didn't say anything. What do you mean by that? Little Mouse's hair stood on end. Ning Shu shook his head and said, If you don't give me face, you're not giving my brother face. You're making my brother very embarrassed. Little Mouse's expression was a little conflicted as he looked at Li Wen. Li Wen still didn't say anything and just watched the two of them quarrel. The little mouse asked Li Wen, Are you really embarrassed? Ning Shu was speechless. As expected, he saw IQ suppression. There was no point in bullying a child, especially a child who was holding an atomic bomb. If she was unhappy, she would throw the atomic bomb at her. Ning Shu got off the boat and waved at Li Wen. Brother, I'm leaving. Take care of yourself. Ning Shu wanted to say, Come find me if you have nothing to do. However, when he thought of the endless worms behind Li Wen, he swallowed his words. Don't look for him if you don't have anything to do. The insect army was still moving forward. Ning Shu stood in place and watched the insects gradually disappear like a tide. He let out a breath. Where should he go next? Ning Shu took out the scroll. It was easy to find the way back with the route recorded on the scroll. However, Ning Shu didn't want to go back so early. Wander around a bit more. To see the scenery that he had never seen before. Ning Shu walked while studying the energy body given by Li Wen. How to use this thing? Can it be directly absorbed? Probably not. If it could be absorbed, Li Wen would have absorbed it himself. Li Wen didn't seem to have any desire for this thing. Probably human souls really couldn't absorb it. Ning Shu wandered around in the void, occasionally comparing the scrolls with each other. However, Li Wen's scroll wasn't a map. It only recorded the route and couldn't point out the direction. Ning Shu put away the map. Anyway, wherever he drifted, it was up to fate. However, as he wandered, Ning Shu encountered a group of souls. These souls were extremely solid. Ning Shu looked left and right. The sudden appearance of such a group of souls, and such powerful souls at that, made Ning Shu feel as if she was hallucinating. These people also saw Ning Shu. They walked over and asked, You were sent by the organization. What's the matter? Ning Shu asked, Who are you? You're not here to find something? One of them asked. Ning Shu shook her head. No, I wandered here. Are you from the organization? Do you know Taishu? Since you know Taishu, you must be from the organization. Ning Shu immediately nodded. Then we know each other. What are you doing here? Mission enforcers had come to the void. Ning Shu had always thought that mission enforcers wouldn't leave the organization. However, what were these people doing here? These people looked at Ning Shu suspiciously and asked, Did the organization ask you to pass a message? Ning Shu shook her head and said, I just came to the void. I didn't pass a message. Ning Shu originally wanted to ask why they were gathered here, but it seemed that he had left the organization. It was difficult to ask, so Ning Shu didn't ask. The mission enforcers on the other side were speechless. Seeing that Ning Shu's soul was so weak, they didn't know what to say. In that case, you can leave, a man said to Ning Shu. Although Ning Shu was curious about what these people were doing here, she still left. Wait. A woman called out to Ning Shu. You can stay. We don't have enough people anyway. Ning Shu immediately nodded. Only by staying could she know what these people were doing. Moreover, even if they wanted to use her as cannon fodder, they had to let her know something. Although they might not tell her anything. Ning Shu and a group of people squatted in the void. Moreover, they didn't speak to each other and were very quiet. Ning Shu couldn't help but ask, What are we doing? Waiting. Someone replied concisely to Ning Shu's question. Of course they knew they were waiting. The question was, what were they waiting for? Seeing the solemn expressions on these people's faces, they couldn't be waiting for something to be born, right? Something was born in the void. There was the sea of law and the power of the plane. Could it be that they were here for the core power? If the sea of law couldn't hold on, then new power would be needed to replenish it. Then these people were here for the things in her pocket. But most of these things had already entered the stomach of the rats. There was basically nothing extra. She didn't know if the rats would have excrement after eating these things. What was the excrement? Could it be that during the war, the organization collected these corpses for this kind of power? Ning Shu felt that he might have guessed it correctly. They were probably here for the core power. Looking around, Ning Shu didn't find anything. The surroundings were pitch black. What were they waiting for? The atmosphere was somewhat stagnant. Ning Shu obediently waited for something to break out of the ground. Chapter 3245. The atmosphere during the wait was very solemn. Ning Shu was truly curious about what these people were looking for, and whether or not it was what she was thinking of. Ning Shu wanted to find someone to ask, but in the end, it was written all over everyone's faces that they did not want to speak. An indescribable atmosphere flowed in the middle of the crowd. The atmosphere was extremely serious and tense. Ning Shu looked around, wondering what would be born. Perhaps it was because Ning Shu was truly too heartless, causing someone to ask, "Did the organization not tell you anything?" What could she say? She snuck out. What could she say? The reason why she was here was completely because she wanted to know what these people were waiting for. Ning Shu shook his head and said, "No, I don't know anything." Since that's the case, why are you wandering around in the void? Every place in the void is the same, you can't see the end, it's very easy for you to get lost. Someone asked. Ning Shu obviously would not say that he had fallen out with the organization, and only nodded his head, "I'm just lost." The woman who called out to Ning Shu previously said, "The sea of law is done for, we need new energy to replenish it, and now we need to find new energy. This place will give birth to new energy bodies, but this energy body actually has a self-defense consciousness, so whether or not we can obtain the energy body is still uncertain. This place could give birth to such a thing?" Ning Shu saw that there was nothing here. Where was it born? Was it born out of thin air? Ning Shu had a look of surprise. Is there a problem with the sea of law? If there is an energy body, the sea of law will be able to revive the dead? Everyone present laughed bitterly. How can it be revived? The sea of law is already old. Giving the sea of law energy to the sea of law is just delaying the decline of the sea of law. Old was old. Divine pills and miraculous medicines were useless. Taking pills now was just to let the sea of law live longer. Although the sea of law was old, surviving for hundreds of thousands of years was not a problem. Looking for this kind of energy was to let the sea of law live for a few million years. Ning Shu acknowledged and held onto the energy body in his pocket tightly. Although it was just a small piece, to be able to mobilize so many people to look for it meant that it was something good. Good things don't reveal your wealth. Ning Shu wasn't stupid enough to say that he had this thing in front of dozens of people. There was no guarantee that no one would attack her. Although he wouldn't die, it would be troublesome. Ning Shu asked, "Is it very dangerous?" Ning Shu also became nervous when he saw how serious these people were. The people in the team stared at Ning Shu. It was probably because Ning Shu's naivety was beyond their imagination. Explaining it word by word was really annoying. It's going to be dangerous. Be careful later, someone said and didn't say anything more. Ning Shu nodded and looked around, paying attention to the situation around her. As for what kind of danger there was, these people were obviously not in the mood to tell her. Ning Shu moved to the woman's side and asked, "You're the person in charge of Zone B, right?" The woman in purple looked at Ning Shu and asked, "Do you know me? I've seen you from afar before." It was mainly because the noble purple color she was wearing was really dazzling. One wouldn't forget after a glance. Ning Shu thought that the woman in purple had been killed, but it turned out that she was really exiled to do other things. Seeing that Ning Shu seemed to know her, her expression relaxed and said, "I'm not in charge now. Isn't Zone B gone?" Ning Shu. This is a bit awkward, I can't answer. No wonder the organization said that since you like to wander, you can always wander. Well, wander in the endless void and find the core power that can provide energy for the Sea of Law. Ning Shu changed the topic and asked, "What problems will we encounter later? I want to ask you about it. This way, I can be prepared in advance and won't drag the team down." Ning Shu said quite sincerely. The woman in purple pondered for a moment and said, "First of all, there's no way for energy bodies to get close to you, especially newly born energy bodies. Second, there will be creatures that are born to protect the energy bodies. These creatures usually have powerful strength." Ning Shu, is there such an existence as a life-bound beast? The woman in purple nodded. You can understand it that way. The purpose of its birth is to protect. If you're lucky, it might not. If it couldn't get close, why was it so easy for those insects to take out this core power? Moreover, it wasn't dangerous in her hand. Could it be that the insects did something that made the core power not dangerous to them? Ning Shu couldn't help but want to take out the energy body to take a look, but with so many people, it was not good to take it out directly. Could it be that the worms were spitting saliva on it? Many creatures in nature used saliva to hunt. Then the energy body she was holding might be covered in the insect's saliva. This was a business opportunity. In the future, he could catch insects alive and collect their saliva when he had nothing to do. But whether that was the case or not, he didn't know. Ning Shu asked again, "How did you know that this place would give birth to energy bodies?" The void was so big, how could they accurately find this place to give birth? The woman in purple looked like she had seen the vicissitudes of life and almost lit a cigarette. Naturally, after various investigations. Let's not talk about it and wait quietly. The woman in purple ended the topic unilaterally. Ning Shu didn't insist on asking, so he waited quietly. Although there were many people, there was no sound at all. It was so quiet that it was a little scary. Ning Shu felt a little itchy in his throat. He couldn't help but cough, but he forced himself to hold it in. Under everyone's gaze, a stalk of grass slowly grew out of the void. This stalk of grass grew bigger and bigger, and it was a bud waiting to bloom. There was energy fluctuating in the center of the flower. Everyone stared at the flower bud. Clearly, the energy body was in the flower bud, and now it was waiting for the flower to bloom. Ning Shu felt that the void was a mysterious existence. How did this flower grow? It didn't need sunlight or rain. It grew out of thin air. And where did this energy body come from? It was too mysterious. There were too many unknown things. This flower bud didn't bloom. Everyone waited quietly. Ning Shu looked around, wanting to see what was protecting the core power. Ning Shu stretched out his hand and took out the God-beating whip. He had never used the God-beating whip, but now it was clearly useful. Roar! A series of roars suddenly resounded. An incomparably huge giant seemed to have torn apart the darkness and suddenly appeared. These giants were already huge, but their muscles bulged like mountains and were full of explosive power. When Ning Shu saw these giants, he thought of the prophecy. In the prophecy, he saw many giants fighting. Could it be such giants? These giants were very big. In comparison, mission enforcers like them couldn't even be considered sand. Chapter 3246. Ning Shu looked at the whip in her hand. Could her whip really hurt these giants? It seemed a little risky. Moreover, there were quite a number of giants. Although they did not have as many as the mission enforcers, they were bigger than them. Moreover, they could trample all of them to death with one foot. Wasn't this a little awkward? It seemed a little risky to snatch the energy body. It wasn't just a little risky, it was very risky. Everyone's expressions were ugly, but no one said that they wanted to leave. Instead, they looked at the flower bud with determination in their eyes. Since these people did not retreat, Ning Shu could not just leave. Ning Shu wanted to see if the energy body could not be approached. If not, why did Li Wen not hurt it? The purple-clothed woman said, "I've already informed the organization. Now, we have to delay these giants to prevent them from taking the energy body away." Ning Shu was curious and asked, "Who are these giants?" The purple-clothed woman said, "I don't know. Anyway, there are all kinds of existences in the void. Don't ask. Think of a way to delay them later." As soon as these giants appeared, They were waiting for the flower bud to bloom slowly. Then they would pluck the flower. When the mission enforcers saw the scene, they immediately took action and used all kinds of methods to stop the giants from plucking the flower. Ning Shu extended the god-beating whip and swung it. He wrapped the whip around the giant's wrist and pulled it desperately. However, Ning Shu's strength was not as great as the giant's. The giant waved its arm up and down. Ning Shu was like a kite. He went up and down, making him dizzy. The giant reached out to grab Ning Shu. Ning Shu quickly let go of the whip. If he was caught, his soul would probably be crushed. After avoiding the giant's hand, Ning Shu saw that the flower bud had bloomed. It bloomed with countless rays of light. The snow-white petals had a bright starry luster, and in the middle was a huge white crystal. It was filled with an indescribable power. This power was like a bright light in the dark. When one saw this thing, they could not help but want to pounce on it. Mother's embrace. However, it would be burned to ashes. When the giant saw that its power had matured, it immediately stretched out its hand to pluck it. As for the ants beside it, the giant didn't care at all. Although these mission enforcers used many methods, to the giant, it was just a few ants crawling on his hand. All he had to do was shake them a little. However, when the giants were about to pluck it again, one of their hands was suddenly pierced by something. The bullet directly pierced through the giant's palm. He directly stopped the giants from plucking the flowers. The giants looked at a spot in the void. The Grand Elder walked out of the darkness with a gun in his hand. When the giant saw Tai Shu, he said something inexplicable in a language that Ning Shu couldn't understand. The giant's words were like a roar. If one's soul was weaker, they would have been shattered by this sound. Grand Elder stood in front of the task enforcers and looked at the giants. He spoke the same language as the giants, but no one knew what he said, which made the giants angry and unhappy. All of them were glaring at Grand Elder like King Kong. The other mission enforcers were all dumbfounded as the two sides chattered on, not knowing what to say. However, since Grand Elder was here, everyone was relieved. The two sides negotiated back and forth. Anyway, they couldn't understand the content of the negotiation. Ning Shu took a few steps back. In this situation, she had to escape quickly. Otherwise, she wouldn't be able to escape. Even the giant's palm could be penetrated. Her soul wasn't strong now, so it would definitely be destroyed. She hadn't lived long enough and didn't want to give birth to a new consciousness. At least when she was bored and felt that life was meaningless, she might want to erase her own consciousness. The giants whispered to each other. No one knew what they were discussing. Grand Elder stood motionless, waiting for the giants to finish their discussion. The giant said something to Grand Elder, then tore open the darkness and left. A black sword condensed in Grand Elder's hand. He slashed at the flower branch, neatly cutting it in half. He caught the flower and put it into the ring space. The mission enforcers all let out a long sigh. No matter what, the mission was now completed. They got the item. Grand Elder put away the energy body. Seeing Ning Shu running away, he said, "Why are you running? I won't eat you. Come back." Ning Shu curled her lips. "They won't eat me. They'll only kill me." Ning Shu smiled and waved at Grand Elder. She wouldn't go back. Grand Elder said, "What are you afraid of? Come here." Ning Shu walked over and said, "I'm not afraid." Although Ning Shu said so, she had condensed a drop of black ink-like dirt behind her back. If Grand Elder really attacked, she would throw the dirt at his face. The other mission enforcers looked at Ning Shu. Grand Elder said, "Go back and rest. Ask the main system for the reward this time." The mission enforcers all looked tired and scattered away, but there were still some people who kept looking in this direction. Grand Elder looked at Ning Shu and asked, "How did it feel to wander around the void?" What did she think? Ning Shu thought for a moment and said, "It's really big." Grand Elder asked again, "What else?" Ning Shu thought carefully. "I'm really small. The world is really wonderful." Grand Elder asked, "What else?" Ning Shu frowned. "There are so many powerful races." Grand Elder looked at Ning Shu. "Since you know that there are many powerful races in the void, you should calm down and become stronger steadily." Ning Shu nodded. "Yes, that's what I think." But I don't know why. I'm very arrogant. Although I've seen so many powerful races, I'm still arrogant. Grand Elder said, "You're full of confidence. You've been wandering outside for a long time. Do what you need to do. If you wander out like this, you won't even know what swallowed you. Control your temper. You don't even know how to use the rules. Your brain is full of scum." Ning Shu said, "That's because I'm too lazy to use my brain. When I'm not strong enough, I'll wring my milk to survive. Now that I have money, why should I save a penny or two?" If he didn't use his strength, it would be a waste. What was the use of the power that he pursued so hard? Grand Elder said, "There are a lot of fallacious reasons. Your mentality is that of a nouveau riche." Ning Shu spread his hands. "What's wrong with nouveau riche? Nouveau riche is also rich." Grand Elder said, "Okay, just wander around. Don't wander in the void. Too many things can devour you." It was rare to see Grand Elders so easy to talk to. Ning Shu decided to poke his heart. Has the Sea of Law reached the end of the road? It needed to rely on this kind of power to maintain it, which meant that the Sea of Law didn't have much energy left. Chapter 3247. Grand Uncle, you don't have the ability, but you still have the heart to save the world. Do the mission well. In this void, no race will accept a weak soul, let alone a human soul. He didn't want to save the world. Ning Shu asked, "Is the birth of humans so discriminated against?" Perhaps in the world, humans had absolute dominance over the creatures in the world, but to these races, humans were little reptiles. Especially since these races didn't seem to be born from a mother. Grand Uncle, humans are a weak, greedy, jealous, and ambitious species. They can even hurt the plane where they live. What else can't they do? Ning Shu, in the minds of these non-human creatures, humans were viewed as such. Although this organization was mostly formed by humans or other intelligent creatures, it didn't change the fact that they were discriminated against. It wasn't just women who were discriminated against, but against the entire race. Ning Shu sneered and said, "Then why use human souls?" Grand Uncle, why not? Using humans to protect the plane that was hurt by humans is also considered protecting themselves. Besides, you were protected before. Why can't you be the one to protect it? Grand Uncle, as I said, it's a matter of mutual benefit. Ning Shu raised his eyebrows. A matter of mutual benefit? I don't see it. Grand Uncle's eyes were full of contempt. When you're strong enough to make rules, you can talk to me about fairness. Ning Shu shook his head. No, I can't talk about it, I can't talk about it. I don't intend to talk to you. I don't intend to get any benefits from you. Grand Uncle said indifferently, becoming a mission enforcer is your responsibility. Unless you're strong enough to get rid of this responsibility, do you think you can get rid of it now? Touch your conscience and ask? Ning Shu. Where is my conscience? I don't have one. My conscience was eaten by a dog. Eaten by a dog. The dog. Grand Uncle glanced at Ning Shu indifferently. He knew that she was being sarcastic, so he didn't bother to say anything more to her. Think about what to do with your brain. Don't be hot-headed. The Grand Uncle disappeared in a flash. Obviously, he didn't want to drag Ning Shu back. Ning Shu wrinkled his nose. I'm not going back now. Since the void could give birth to this kind of energy, Ning Shu also wanted it. Just as Ning Shu was about to take back the garbage, Senior Uncle suddenly appeared. Ning Shu was so scared that he almost threw the black dirt on Senior Uncle's face. If it really hit his face, he would have to face the pain of his consciousness collapsing again. With a fake smile, Ning Shu asked, "Is there anything else?" The Grand Elder said indifferently, "I can sense energy fluctuations from your body. Are you talking about the energy body that Brother Emperor gave me?" Ning Shu looked confused and asked, "What energy fluctuation?" Ning Shu's expression was very innocent. He had an expression that said, "What are you talking about? I don't understand at all." Ning Shu smeared the condensed dirt on his face. Sure enough, he saw Senior Uncle take 2 steps back. If it's energy fluctuations, I just touched the flower, so there are energy fluctuations on my body. Senior uncle, you can touch it? Ning Shu, of course I can, because there's insect saliva on my hand. Even bitwalls and energy bodies could be digested. The saliva should be very powerful. Senior uncle raised his eyebrows. You can't withstand insect saliva. No, it will form a protective membrane on my body. Ning Shu made up nonsense. If you have the ability, go find an insect and test it. Ning Shu was a little frightened. They had discovered that there was a core energy body on her body. Since the organization spent so much manpower and resources to find it, it must be something good. It was given to her by Li Wen. There was no reason to give it to the organization. It was a personal item. Senior uncle saw that Ning Shu's face was smeared with soot and couldn't help but frown. Do you have to make yourself so disgusting? Ning Shu, disgusting others makes me happy. At least I feel much better when I see you so disgusting. Senior uncle only felt a slight fluctuation from Ning Shu's body, but he wasn't sure if there was something on Ning Shu's body, so he gave up. Don't wander outside. You won't even know how you died. After that, he disappeared in an instant. The vast void was quiet and boundless. Ning Shu let out a sigh of relief. He absorbed the dirt on his face and compressed it in his dantian. Anyway, this thing could be used repeatedly. Couldn't the energy fluctuations of this thing be covered up? If it couldn't be covered up, it would be discovered sooner or later. What should he do? This time, he managed to fool him. Senior uncle got a core energy that was many times larger than this. What if he didn't? What was the use of this thing? Ning Shu first looked around. He felt that senior uncle was hiding in the dark and quietly observing him. He quickly moved away from this place and studied this thing. Ning Shu found a place where relatively large particles of dust were floating. Ning Shu sat on the big dust and took out the green crystal. It was a very pure green color, and the reflection of the light was very charming. It was much purer than the crystal, but it wasn't made of glass. Ning Shu wanted to absorb this power, but he couldn't absorb it at all. Maybe this power wasn't for people to absorb at all. Or maybe it wasn't for people with a weak foundation like him to absorb. For example, only a gifted race like the insect could eat this kind of thing. But this thing was also a dangerous thing in his hand. It seemed that those giants were also looking for this kind of thing. Senior uncle also needed this kind of thing. He had come to the void, and the organization's influence was still there. It was really pervasive. If he threw it away, Ning Shu would feel distressed. It had a special wave on him. What should he do? He didn't know how to block this wave. Ning Shu took out the peerless martial art. After thinking about it, he directly threw this thing into the law of nothingness. Since the law of nothingness could devour anything, it should be able to block this kind of wave. The fist-sized energy body was thrown into the water with a splash, and then a layer of ripples appeared. Then there was no after. There was no reaction. It was like throwing money into the water, and there was only a splash. Forget it. He had already thrown it away. He couldn't pick it up. Ning Shu looked at the endless world. The entire peerless martial art was like an ocean. This world had shrunk to the size of an ocean. Fortunately, he had collected a lot of star stones before. Otherwise, the world wouldn't be able to hold on. Ning Shu now had a new goal, which was to find such an energy body. Although he didn't know what it was for, it seemed very powerful. Since he was going to wander around, he might as well find this. Although senior uncle wanted him to return to the organization, he didn't have this idea for the time being. Chapter 3248. Ning Shu continued to wander in the void and saw the giant. Seeing the giant, Ning Shu ran away without thinking. And he also encountered a wave of insects. This wave of insects didn't seem to be Li Wen and the rest. Ning Shu also ran away. If he was crushed by such a large group of insects, not even a speck of dust would be left. And Ning Shu also encountered the birth of an energy body. But the moment it was born, it was taken away by the giant. Ning Shu couldn't snatch it. Even if he notified the organization, they wouldn't be able to make it in time. He couldn't waste time. He had to return to the plane to collect souls and become stronger. Otherwise, he wouldn't even be able to snatch anything. Ning Shu followed the scroll that Li Wen gave him and returned to the familiar void. The workshop hadn't opened yet. How was she supposed to become stronger? She could only watch as others took away the good things that were given to them. She could only watch helplessly as others took them away. This feeling was really too painful. When would she run up and join in and snatch things? More importantly, when she saw these gifted races, she could only run. She didn't even have the strength to fight. Just his muscular and enormous body was enough to make people feel intimidated. There was simply no way to fight against him. Humans were probably the softest animals. Even ordinary creatures had sharp claws or venom armor to protect their bodies. Only humans had soft skin. It was probably because humans were intelligent and aesthetic. They didn't like hard and rough fur. Soft skin was more beautiful to the touch. What should she do? She could only hurry up and strengthen her soul. Ning Shu arrived at the wishing shop. The barrier was still there. Everything was the same as before. It was just that there was no business. This was a little awkward. Could it be that this shop couldn't be opened? Or could it be that it couldn't be done even if she wanted to? Probably the organization had a monopoly. If it really didn't work, she would go to every world to find wandering souls without consciousness. For those low-level creatures, they only had survival instincts and no intelligence. After they died, their souls were just a small group of wandering souls. Even when the soul left the body, it would be annihilated. It would be blown away by the wind or melted by the sun. Therefore, it wasn't easy to find wandering souls. There were slightly more in the world of reincarnation. Could it be that she was going to the millions upon millions of reincarnation worlds to obtain wandering souls? If the Abyssal Prefect knew about this, he would definitely stab her to death. This was a little difficult. Ning Shu chewed on the kidney-strengthening fruit while thinking about the future. She could wander in the void, but there were too many unknown races in the void. Moreover, these races were all freaking gifted. The goal of their entire lives was just the starting point of their birth. As soon as he spoke, he possessed great power. As for humans with weak foundations like them, no matter how hard they worked, their talents were limited. Sigh, this is how I eat lotus root. Ning Shu bit the steel ball-like kidney-strengthening fruit and squatted in the void. Looking at the billions of planes and samsara worlds, he fell into deep thought. The frog at the bottom of the well jumped out of the well, but the problem was that the outside world was very dangerous. Although it was very big, it was so big that there was no place for her to stay. How embarrassing! Come on. Ning Shu was no longer in the mood for business. If nothing unexpected happened, the path of missions was probably monopolized by the organization. She couldn't even make some leftovers. Moreover, even the souls that came to the boundary were also quite speechless. Then there was only one way left. Collect wandering souls in each world, and at the same time collect the soul power in her own samsara world. She didn't believe that it wasn't enough to strengthen her soul. She didn't know how many treasures there were in the void, but her ability was not enough to obtain these things. Not to mention snatching them from the hands of giants or insects, she couldn't even get close to the treasures. She couldn't even touch the treasures. She found it but couldn't get it. It was so disgusting. Ning Shu entered the samsara world. Zhu Jun said to Ning Shu, "Now there's no merit." Ning Shu, "Since there's no more merit, then let's stop for a while. I don't have any extra merit now." Zhu Jun didn't say anything else and nodded. He glanced at Ning Shu. "What are you sad about?" Ning Shu said, "There's too much to be sad about. I can't even finish talking about it." Zhu Jun thought for a while and said, "Forget it if there's no merit. Now all the skeletons have a layer of golden light on their bodies. However, some of them have started to penetrate deep into their bones, while others only have a layer of light on the surface. If the entire body was built with merit, even the depths of their bones were tempered with merit, then they would achieve true toughness." Ning Shu also hoped that all the skeletons could become true golden bodies of merit. However, he was embarrassingly short of money. He would think about it when he had more merit in the future. Moreover, even if he encountered any danger, especially in the void, these skeletons wouldn't be of much help. He would let these skeletons stay in the samsara world first. Ning Shu and Zhu Jun were talking when something happened in the reincarnation pool. Disaster beasts were born. The stench of the disaster beasts could be smelled from 10 miles away. The disaster beasts in the samsara world all fled, afraid that they would be contaminated. The disaster beasts crawled out of the reincarnation pool. Their bodies were pitch black, and they looked like both animals and humans. Several of them were born at once. Zhu Jun quickly found stronger skeletons to come over. Ning Shu pinched her nose and looked at the pitch-black disaster beasts. Anyway, she wasn't afraid of such filthy things anymore. She directly rushed over. Holding the thread-like power of faith, she directly tied up a few disaster beasts. At close range, these disaster beasts smelled even worse. These disaster beasts spouted filth everywhere. Some of it spilled on Ning Shu's body. Ning Shu's heart was in a mess. Zhu Jun and a few skeletons rushed over and dealt with the disaster beasts together with Ning Shu. The disaster beasts didn't have intelligence. They roared and their voices were extremely penetrating. Hearing the sound of the disaster beasts, some of the weaker souls would directly lose their minds. Ning Shu had threads of the power of faith. She gave a few to Zhu Jun and then pulled a few of them herself. Her hands formed a seal. The threads of the power of faith seemed to melt and turned into beams of light, penetrating the disaster beasts' bodies. The disaster beasts' bodies trembled. In the end, they directly exploded. The filth scattered in the samsara world. Ning Shu stretched out her hand and directly collected the filth. Since she could absorb it, she would keep it for her own use, so that the filth wouldn't contaminate the samsara world. Although there were a few disaster beasts, they didn't have intelligence. It wasn't difficult to destroy them. The difficult part was resisting the disgust. Some of the skeletons' bodies were also splashed with black filth. Ning Shu asked, "Is this okay?" The skeletons directly used their hands to wipe off the filth on their bodies. The golden light of virtue covered the skeletons with a layer of protection. It was like an oil film, protecting the skeletons from being corroded. Chapter 3249. Ning Shu nodded his head. Fortunately, these merits were not wasted. Disaster beasts were born quickly and destroyed quickly. Ning Shu put away these filth and did not absorb them. Absorbing these things was not what Ning Shu wanted. Most importantly, Ning Shu absorbed these filth for his own use in order to absorb the impure soul power. Yi Lin and He Qing stood behind a black stone and watched Ning Shu and the skeletons deal with the disaster beasts. He Qing said, "Very powerful." Yi Lin did not say anything. He looked at Ning Shu and said, "She is very powerful. Unfortunately, she has always been so cold." Yi Lin did not know what to say. In any case, this cheap master of his really made people speechless. He Qing asked, "Do you really have nothing to do with her? If you don't have anything to do with her, why do you look so disappointed?" Yi Lin shook his head. "I used to have some relationship with her, but now it's nothing." "Forget it, let's not talk about the past." Yi Lin thought about his life. It was simply a joke. He was not together with the woman he loved. Moreover, he did not know how Bai Cece was now, whether she was alive or dead. His relationship with this master of his had gradually become indifferent. It was not easy to establish a sect, but it was besieged and killed by her disciple. It was really a failure in his life. Yi Lin did not know what to say about this life. He Qing could not help but say, "If possible, I really don't want to stay in this world. Is there any way to get out of this world? I have looked for her, but she said that I am not qualified. My heart is so tired." He Qing said helplessly. In the end, she went from a small city lord's mansion to a place that could not see the light of day. This world was gray all year round. There was no sunlight or color. If you want to see a colorful world, you can go to the past life pool. The past life pool could transform into all kinds of beautiful scenes. However, these were all empty and fake. If you want to start over, you must be reborn. However, He Qing did not want to be reborn. She watched as some souls in the world of reincarnation repeatedly reincarnated and finally turned into nothingness, turning into wandering souls without consciousness. He Qing didn't want things to be like this. Reincarnation, reincarnation over and over again, suffering the pain of reincarnation. Yilin said, "You'd better not look for her. She has always had a heart of stone. She won't do anything she doesn't want to do." He Qing sighed. She looked at Ning Shu and the skeleton in the distance with a depressed expression. Why couldn't she leave? What could he do to leave this world and see other worlds? During this period of time, He Qing's temperament had become much more stable. Previously, she had been too impatient and had offended others. He Qing said, "If she doesn't want to, that's her own decision. You can't force her. Everyone has things they don't want to do. There's nothing you can do." Yilin said, "You're quite open-minded. So what if I can accept it? So what if I can't accept it? Things are already like this. You don't know, but I was locked in a gorgeous cage before. Now, I'm in an even bigger cage." He Qing pursed her lips. Ning Shu walked over. Yilin grabbed He Qing and asked, "Where are you going?" He Qing said, "I'm going to talk to her." Yilin frowned. "Even if you go, she won't pay attention to you. You'll just be asking for a snub." He Qing said, "How can I know if I don't try? If there's a chance, I'll give it a try." She couldn't just do nothing for a little face. If she didn't do anything, she could only stay in this world of samsara. Yilin said, "There won't be any results even if you go and talk to her. You'll only lose face." He Qing said, "I'm not afraid of losing face. What's wrong with losing face? It's my own feeling of losing face. Other people don't care about losing face at all." Yilin didn't expect He Qing to be so determined. During this period of time, he had been staying with He Qing to look for wandering souls. Now, He Qing was actually going to look for Ning Shu and abandon him. Yilin felt like he had been abandoned by his partner. Yilin said, "Oh, it'll be a waste of time even if you go." He Qing didn't care about Yilin's feelings, and Yilin wouldn't tell He Qing about his feelings. It would be embarrassing to say it out loud. He Qing left Yilin and walked over to Ning Shu. Yilin chuckled in his heart and watched from a distance. When Ning Shu saw He Qing, he was stunned and asked, "Why are you looking for me?" Ning Shu condensed 2 stools with vines. He sat down first and said to He Qing, "Sit down." He Qing thought for a moment and sat down. She hesitated and said, "I used to have a bad attitude." Ning Shu said, "It's okay. Who didn't have a temper?" As for whether He Qing was happy or not, to be honest, Ning Shu didn't care at all. However, He Qing was much calmer. She used to be aggressive, but at least she was much calmer now. She didn't want to play tricks on anyone. He Qing let out a breath and said, "Thank you. I've always wanted to thank you. Thank you for saving me from the city lord's mansion." Ning Shu said, "It's okay. It was just a matter of convenience. Don't worry about it. It was a matter of convenience for you, but for me, it changed my fate. Otherwise, I don't know how long I would have been locked up," He Qing said seriously. Ning Shu pondered for a moment and nodded. That's true. With great power, saving and killing people was as easy as turning one's hand. Ning Shu asked, "Why are you looking for me? Tell me." "Your soul's purity isn't up to par, but to tell you the truth, I can't help you." She had already left the organization. Although He Qing was disappointed, she knew it was within her expectations. She said calmly, "Thank you. I know." She didn't know what to say next. Yilin watched the 2 of them talk from afar. He didn't know how long they had been talking, but it seemed like they were having a good time. Yilin suddenly felt a little stifled. He felt like this cheap master of his was being treated differently. He also felt like he had been slapped in the face. He Qing had only come to ease the tension between them. She didn't think that there would be a result. Seeing that there was nothing else to talk about, she stood up and bid farewell. She said to Ning Shu, "It's a bit shameless to say that, but I still want a chance." He Qing said, "I'm willing to wait. Please give me a chance." Ning Shu looked at He Qing. "I really want to leave this place." He Qing nodded. "If I was ignorant, then so be it. But now that I've seen it, I'm no longer willing to live a mediocre life." Ning Shu said, "I won't agree so easily. I won't go back on my word." He Qing said, "Thank you. I'm willing to give you what I have. Ning Shu smiled and nodded. Alright, that's that. He Qing left. Zhu Jun said, this soul is a bit interesting. Are you going to agree? Zhu Jun stared at Ning Shu with his pitch-black eyes. Chapter 3250. Ning Shu said, if there's a chance, I'll give her a chance. If there's no chance, then there's nothing I can do. Since she's willing to follow me, of course, I'll give her a chance if there's a chance. As for what happens in the future, let's talk about it later. Zhu Jun said, the human heart is the most unpredictable thing. I'm not afraid of anything. I just need to be firm. I'm not afraid of what will happen in the future. There was no need to worry at all. Because she believed that she had the absolute strength to deal with the future. What was there to be afraid of? Zhu Jun nodded and said, you should have such thoughts. You're not afraid of others being stronger than you. There's always a higher mountain. Compared to others, wouldn't it be exhausting? She wasn't afraid of others being stronger than her. Did she have to kill someone who might be stronger? Ning Shu stretched and said to Zhu Jun, I'm going to rest for a while. Don't call me if there's anything. What did you say to her? Yi Lin couldn't help but ask as soon as he saw He Qing. The two of them had talked for quite a long time. What on earth did they talk about? As someone who was also disliked by Ning Shu, Yi Lin now saw that He Qing seemed to have a good relationship with Ning Shu and had talked for so long. He Qing didn't want to tell Yi Lin the truth, nor did she want to talk about what they had discussed. He Qing said, nothing, but her attitude towards me is still bad. He Qing chose to lie. She instinctively felt that she shouldn't tell the truth. Yi Lin was skeptical, but he didn't pursue the matter. However, he still had some doubts in his heart. Ning Shu slept. When he woke up, a line of words appeared in front of Ning Shu. There were only 4 words, see you in Water City. There wasn't even a signature. Ning Shu replied, see you for what? Negotiation. This feeling of talking through the air was really cool. Let's talk when we meet. Sincerely. Ning Shu said, then let's meet. After going out for a walk, Ning Shu's mentality was a little different. Ning Shu went to the consultation room in Water City. When he walked in, the Tai Shu and the silver-haired man were both inside. Ning Shu sat down and asked, what's the matter? The Grand Elder narrowed his eyes. There was no fluctuation again? Tai Shu didn't speak. The silver-haired man next to him said, you can't open your own studio. Because it can't be started. If you want the power of the soul, you'll have to rely on the organization, the silver-haired man said. In the void, any race is stronger than the human race. Ning Shu didn't say anything. He just looked at the silver-haired man. Since you can absorb impure soul power, then in the future, when you complete a mission, all the soul power contributed by the client will belong to you. Ning Shu said indifferently, the organization won't take a cut from it. The silver-haired man said, no commission. The soul power of the client is all yours. It was quite interesting. Ning Shu, what else? Deal with the star stones and settle it on the spot. If you agree, all the previous merit points will be sent to your account. Ning Shu asked, what do you need me to do? Do what you used to do in the past. As a human, you're too weak. The only thing worth looking at is immortality. At most, you're an unkillable cockroach. But is a cockroach really unkillable? Ning Shu, you guys are really interesting. You despise me and then pull me into your group. Is it really so difficult to admit me? The silver-haired man probably thought that Ning Shu was too stubborn. It's just an analogy. Ning Shu said, that is to say, what was it like in the past will be the same in the future. The silver-haired man, the treatment is obviously much better. Ning Shu, no one will change shifts in the future. Yes, there will be more people dealing with the star stones. And it will be settled on the spot. There will be an extra 20% reward and 120,000 merit points per transaction. Ning Shu asked, what about my god-beating whip? The silver-haired man, isn't the god-beating whip yours? Ning Shu smiled. How interesting. Then what about the judge of District C? I'm from District A, but the judge of District B is actually managing someone from District A. Does this count as overstepping his authority? The silver-haired man said indifferently, yes, it's overstepping your authority. There will be a punishment. I only have one request for you. Don't openly challenge the rules of the main organization. Don't be reckless. What if they hit me? Can't I fight back? Ning Shu said aggrievedly. The silver-haired man said expressionlessly, can't you report it? Ning Shu felt even more aggrieved. If I report it, will the organization definitely help me? Not necessarily. Ning Shu, then what's the use of reporting it? The silver-haired man became even calmer. You have to report it even if it's useless. The silver-haired man clearly did not want to talk to Ning Shu anymore. Okay, go back and think about it. You can't survive in the void. In the organization, you can still stay together. Ning Shu just said, got it, I'll think about it. Then he stood up and was about to leave. When he reached the door, he turned back and said, is there anything else? The silver-haired man, no. Ning Shu said, oh, by the way, I have another request. I want to recommend someone to join the organization. The silver-haired man nodded without thinking. By the way, her soul is a bit muddy. Her soul needs to be stripped. The silver-haired man, okay. Ning Shu, is my kidney-strengthening fruit still mine? The silver-haired man, it's yours. What's yours is yours. What else do you want to say in one go? Ning Shu thought carefully. Will someone take over the shift when handling the star stones in the future? Still waiting for the shift to take over? The silver-haired man said directly, someone has already taken over. Ning Shu nodded and left the consultation room. The silver-haired man asked the Grand Elder, did you feel any fluctuations from her body? The Grand Elder shook his head and said, no fluctuations. It's probably because she really touched the power. If she can find it, it's her ability. The Grand Elder got up from the chair and said to the silver-haired man, watch her carefully. She's a small shrimp in the void, but she can cause trouble in the organization. The silver-haired man nodded. By the way, what did you use to exchange for the energy body this time? The Grand Elder said, we have to find another one for them. This is a loan. The silver-haired man said, those people have always been overbearing and unreasonable. It's good to borrow it. The Grand Elder snorted. If you don't want to borrow it, then go to them. They would return what they borrowed, but they didn't say when they would return it. Ning Shu returned to the world of reincarnation. Lying on the vine, he thought carefully about whether to leave or stay in the organization. In the Sea of Law, there were many more races. After such a commotion, the organization made a compromise. All the soul power from the mission was hers. Merit was what she needed. To be precise, it was what the skeleton needed. Even if she wanted to trade, she would definitely need to be an organization member. Chapter 3251. Now that the treatment had improved, it was just a little. It wasn't much, but it gave each other a way out. Ning Shu thought about it. Since there was merit to be gained, why not take it? She was a woman who needed to support her family. Not only did she have to support her family, but she also had to be responsible for her beauty. After all, a skeleton could only be considered delicate and not as beautiful as a flower. Moreover, Ning Shu looked at it. All the soul power contributed by the client was hers, and it hadn't been purified. Ning Shu didn't care whether it was purified or not. What she cared about was that she could get all the soul power contributed by the client. What was her weakest now? Her soul power was the weakest. Although she ate the kidney-strengthening fruit, the kidney-strengthening fruit could determine the width, but not the height, so she needed soul power. There was no business in opening a studio. Ning Shu thought about it and asked Zhu Jun if she could go back since her previous employer wanted her to go back and the treatment had improved. Ning Shu didn't care much about things like face. Being shameless would make one full. What she lost was more than what she gained. As for the 3 nomological imprints, it was fine if she didn't have them. The nomological imprints were gone, but the comprehension was still there. Most importantly, without the imprints, she wasn't the city lord of the city. She didn't have to worry about the barrier of the city breaking at all times. Since becoming the city lord, Ning Shu hadn't collected much tax, and it was often a 100-year tax fine. In the hundreds of years of the fine, she still had to bear this responsibility, so she might as well just let it go. No official duties, no burden. Even if she didn't have the nomological imprints, she had death. What was more awesome than death? She didn't have to worry about the suppression of laws at all. Zhu Jun thought about it and said, let's see if you want to go back. If you go back licking your face when there are benefits, won't others laugh at you? Ning Shu shook her head and said, I'm not licking my face. Although I don't know what the organization's purpose is, the organization wants me to go back. I'm probably useful as a cockroach. At least she was good at handling star stones. She could easily handle things that others didn't want to do. Zhu Jun said, then you should go back. You worked hard and he paid you. There's nothing much to say. But is your studio going to die just like that? Speaking of the studio, Ning Shu simply wanted to sigh. Instead of waiting for business, it's better to borrow the chicken to lay the eggs. It seemed like the organization had a lot of missions. Even if there was only one person in each plane, it was still a lot of people. Ning Shu could now feel that the organization protecting the plane was actually an act of helplessness. If it was really like what Zheng Qing said, to directly abandon these planes, then the Sea of Law would be completely bare, and the insects would come, they would go straight to the Sea of Law and take away the core power. The Sea of Laws also knelt down. Although these planes would consume the power of the Sea of Laws, there were enough life forms in the planes, and nurturing some slightly stronger ants was also the power to deal with those insects. Low-level bugs gnawed on planes, while high-level bugs gnawed on core power. She didn't even have the strength of a lowly insect, yet she could directly devour a plane. Awesome. In short, it was a dilemma whether to drag it out and not die, or die immediately. But to Zheng Qing, what was the difference? There was no difference. I just don't like these ants. What can you do to me? Zhu Jun said, then you should go back. Ning Shu nodded. Indeed I can. By the way, find that He Qing from before. Not long after, skeletons came with He Qing. He Qing's face was a little panicked. She didn't know why these skeletons wanted to capture her. The skeletons came to capture her, and Yi Lin, who was with her, immediately left without thinking of saving her. Although the two of them were temporary partners, getting together to keep each other warm, Yi Lin leaving her so quickly still made He Qing feel a little cold. Moreover, the golden light of virtue on these skeletons made her feel very uncomfortable. She felt uncomfortable all over. It was probably the feeling of a malicious spirit bathing in the sun. When He Qing saw Ning Shu, she showed an aggrieved expression, but she didn't rush to question Ning Shu. The skeletons let go of He Qing's arm. There was a clear handprint on her arm, which was left behind when the skeletons grabbed her. It looked like it was burned. He Qing was in great pain, but she endured it and didn't cry out. Ning Shu asked, why are you looking for me? Ning Shu said, your matter has been resolved. When He Qing heard this, she didn't care about the pain in her soul. Her eyes were as bright as two big light bulbs. She quickly asked, really? Can I? Ning Shu nodded. Yes, you can, but your soul is a little filthy. I have to cut your soul and purify it. It's very painful. Ning Shu had tried it once, and it was as painful as being cut into pieces. He Qing nodded repeatedly. It's okay. I can endure it no matter how painful it is. Really, thank you, thank you. He Qing didn't expect that the thing she had been begging for and couldn't get would appear in front of her now. She felt like she was in a dream. She couldn't believe it at all. Can I really? Ning Shu nodded. Yes. He Qing was so excited that her eyes turned red. She said to Ning Shu in an excited voice, from now on, I'm your person. No, I'm your ghost. Ning Shu was very calm about He Qing's oath. No one could say for sure what would happen in the future. Sometimes oaths were used to bind people, and it would make people hate them. Who would like someone to talk about other people's kindness to them every day? Not to mention kindness, even hatred would be born. Ning Shu said calmly, I don't want you to become my person. I just don't like you hanging out with Yi Lin. This was her back garden. These two people were always together, giving Ning Shu a bad feeling. In any case, these two people were already dead. Ning Shu didn't want to target anyone. Since He Qing had this ambition, he would fulfill it. Whenever there was nothing to do, the two of them would gather together and whisper to each other's ears, which made people feel uncomfortable. Ning Shu knew that Yi Lin wouldn't say anything good about him. It was fine if he didn't see it, but being in front of him every day, it was hard to avoid feeling uncomfortable. He Qing lowered her head in shame and said, "I just want to know his relationship with you. I want to leave here." He Qing quickly waved her hand. "I didn't say anything to him." In any case, He Qing still knew that Ning Shu was her savior. He saved her from the cage-like city lord's mansion. The other women all went to the afterlife and jumped into the afterlife pool, but He Qing didn't want to. She didn't know what kind of person she would become in the afterlife. /BK Chapter 3252. He Qing didn't know if she would be bewitched again. No matter what, that kind of man was infatuating and full of charm. As a mortal woman, of course, she couldn't resist a man full of charm who was fawning over her. She could only work hard to become stronger and see more. Her heart would be firm, and she wouldn't be bewitched by appearances. Ning Shu smiled. He's probably going to say that she has a heart of stone again. Words like heart of stone were usually words of resentment. He Qing nodded, then quickly shook her head. No. She knew whether it was true or not. She didn't need to care about Yi Lin. If Yi Lin really had the ability, then he would become stronger and kill her to vent the hatred in his heart. Ning Shu contacted the main system and told it that he planned to go back. The silver-haired man said, "Your system space is still intact. Now we need to install a system for you." Install a system? What did he mean? Ning Shu rejected directly. No need. I'll just use the backup system from before. There was no need for a system. Although it was a system, it was also a soul and a person. Even if it wasn't a person, it was still an intelligent creature. It had intelligence and emotions, and it needed to be worn in. Ning Shu was used to being alone, so he didn't need a system at all. And since it was a person, it needed to be worn in with a communication method. Then the system space wasn't considered a private place. There was one more person. Ning Shu felt like an uninvited guest had suddenly barged into his boudoir, and it was a long-term resident. He suddenly felt uncomfortable all over. He was very unhappy and resistant. The silver-haired man said, "Do you know why it's a mission enforcer and a system?" Ning Shu said, "I don't want to know. I'm fine by myself." The backup system could do all the functions, and it wouldn't be nagging all the time. It also didn't need to take care of the backup system's emotions and say whatever it wanted to say. If there was someone nagging at him about everything he did, it would be a very uncomfortable feeling. His absolute privacy had been violated. The silver-haired man said, "It's because this can increase the mission enforcer's survival rate." The two of them have a discussion, and it also prevents the mission enforcer from doing anything irrational. There's also someone to remind them. You're the only one who's special. You've used the backup system for so long. Ning Shu chuckled. Was she saying that she was hot-headed? Ning Shu, then are you going to shove Zhengqing into my hands again? Should he pull Zhengqing out of the law of nothingness, drain her dry, and shove her back into her hands? Now, he had a biological rejection of the system. He didn't want it at all. The silver-haired man said, "No, it's just a normal system. I hope you can cooperate well. If there's anything, there's room for discussion." Ning Shu rolled his eyes. "I've already said that I don't want the system. I'm fine with the backup system." When she returned to the space system, she just wanted to lie down on her back. However, there were still people in the space system staring at her all the time. She couldn't put on an act all the time. Occasionally, she would let loose and pick her feet, nose, and so on. With someone beside her, she had to maintain her composure. The silver-haired man said, "If you want to come back, you need a system. A system will help you deal with some things. Dealing with things is fake, right? The real thing is to keep an eye on me." The backup system was more than enough to deal with things. How boring. Instead of being stared at like this, she might as well wander around. At least she had freedom. If she saw a strong race, she would run away. When people walked, they wouldn't care if they saw an ant running away in front of them. Who would be so troublesome to look for an ant all over the world? It's not to keep an eye on you. It's to remind you and tell you the organization's rules in detail. I don't want this kind of thing to happen again. Once is enough. Don't do it more than 3 times. Don't do it more than 3 times? There was still one more time. Ning Shu said, "What if I don't accept the system?" She was really resistant to the system. Who knew what kind of monsters the organization would give her this time? What kind of scary things? She was scared. She couldn't afford to offend them. The silver-haired man said, "We didn't say that you don't want the system. The system is a rigid requirement of the organization. I hope you can abide by the organization's rules." Ning Shu was speechless. Damn, they were indeed scheming. The rules on the surface? Weren't the rules on the surface restricted everywhere? Were they playing crossword games with her? The rules on the surface were used to restrain people. How could the unspoken rules be called rules on the surface? She couldn't even reject a system now. The silver-haired man said, "Everyone is a mission enforcer working with the system. Why do you think you should be an exception?" Ning Shu suddenly wanted to cry. My system is Jingqing. He will always be my system. Although they are suppressed by the law of nothingness, in my heart, only he is my system. The silver-haired man said, "Are you sure you want him?" Ning Shu said, "If I say I miss him and want him to be my system, will you bail him out?" The silver-haired man said, "No, you should forget him and start over. Choose a new system and start over. He isn't worth your attention. You will meet a better system. You can't forget a special system just because you met one." Ning Shu said, "Thank you for your rotten chicken soup, but I still don't want a system." The silver-haired man said, "It's already been arranged. The organization will give you a promotion and a raise, but you don't even want your work partner. That's not good." Ning Shu said, "If you want to come back, you have to accept the system arranged by the organization." Ning Shu said, "If I don't accept, does that mean I don't have to go back to the organization?" The silver-haired man said, "Yes." Ning Shu pondered for a while and asked, "Then it's very special. Is it a system like Jingqing?" The silver-haired man said, "There is only one Jingqing." Ning Shu supported her chin. Her treatment had improved a little, but there were more restrictions on her. Not to mention whether she could get along with the system's personality, her rejection was enough to make the other party feel uncomfortable. Ning Shu asked, "If I can't get along with the system, can we break up peacefully?" The silver-haired man said, "There is nothing that time can't solve. Pay attention to communication and understand each other. You will be good partners. There are so many mission enforcers and so many systems. They are all faithful." Ning Shu was speechless. Faithful to the end, what a terrifying phrase. If she met a scumbag like Jingqing, she couldn't just leave him. Even if she did, it would be Jingqing who left her. Otherwise, she wouldn't be able to get rid of him. The silver-haired man said, "Every mission enforcer is bound. Why do you think you can't be bound?" Ning Shu just said, "Got it, /BK." Chapter 3253. She didn't expect it to be so troublesome to return to the organization, and now there was another person. Wasn't it awkward? It was very awkward. If they met teammates while doing tasks, they could cooperate to complete the task and then go their separate ways. But if it was the system, she didn't know how long they would have to stay together. She felt very desperate just thinking about it. Also, there's someone here. Let her become a task enforcer. Ning Shu said to the silver-haired man. The silver-haired man, "Okay." Ning Shu said to He Qing with some disinterest, "Your matter is solved. I'll send you over." Ning Shu built a space channel to connect to the consultation room in the City of Water. "Go in. Go straight. Someone will receive you when you get there." He Qing saw that Ning Shu seemed unhappy and didn't dare to say anything. She directly entered the space channel and looked back at Ning Shu. He Qing walked along the space channel. It was a little dark in the channel and she couldn't see anything. He Qing could only keep walking. There was light in front of her. He-Ching quickened her pace, but then she missed a step and fell to the ground. She fell into a room. It was the first time she saw such bright colors. There were tables and chairs in the room. Although it wasn't very lively, it made He-Ching feel very comfortable. She finally left the dark and misty world of samsara. She could see a beautiful world. A silver-haired man lifted the curtain and walked out of the inner room. He looked at He-Ching indifferently and asked, "Ning Shu asked you to come?" He-Ching nodded. "Yes." "Then come with me." The silver-haired man put down the curtain and entered the inner room. He-Ching hesitated. She was a little timid, but she had already come this far. She had to walk with her head held high. He-Ching lifted the curtain and walked in. Her eyes blurred and then she lost consciousness. Then she felt that her whole body was stabbed countless times, and the knife cut her body piece by piece. It was very painful. It was so painful that she lost consciousness. She wished she could just end it. The sudden pain made He-Ching feel very confused. But when she remembered that Ning Shu said it would be very painful, she could only grit her teeth and bear with it. Ning Shu didn't care whether He-Ching could bear it or not. After all, everyone's fate was different. The main system informed her that the system had already arranged everything, so she could go back and interact with her own system. "Ning Shu, I don't want to go back at all." Ning Shu let out a deep breath. Since he was already here, he might as well take things as they came. Since he couldn't change anything, then he might as well get along well with him. Ning Shu also stopped resisting. She couldn't be so unlucky as to meet someone like Xing-Qing. The organization probably wouldn't give her such a person. Otherwise, she would definitely explode. Ning Shu returned to the system space, which was still the same. There was a spiritual pool with fish swimming in it. The sofa and bookshelves were also there. Ning Shu sat on the sofa and asked, "System, are you there?" The system said, "Nice to meet you, nice to meet you." The system's voice was male. Ning Shu was a little disappointed. Why wasn't it a cute little loli? In the end, it turned out to be a man. If he had known, he would have asked for a girl. At least the girls had something in common. Ning Shu said, "I'm Ning Shu, a mission enforcer. What's your name?" "My serial number is 2333, the system said. Ning Shu shook his head and said, 2333 isn't a good serial number. Let's change it." "Then what should I change it to? My memory has already been formatted." "Your serial number is my name, so what name do you want me to change to?" the system asked. Ning Shu said, "Up to you. I'm just giving a suggestion. You can call me 2333 if you want." The system said, "If you don't want to, then change it. I don't have any memory anyway. Names don't matter to me. If changing a name can make our relationship closer, then it's worth it." Ning Shu raised his eyebrows. This system was a little interesting. She said, "Sure, up to you. Be my system." The main system should have some special instructions. The system said, "Telling each other the truth is the first step to building trust." There are indeed instructions. The main system said that my mission enforcer is a troublemaker, so I need to remind you at all times to prevent you from doing anything rash. If anything happens to you, the organization shouldn't punish you too heavily. However, I'll have to bear the rest of the punishment. My responsibility is to look after you. It probably felt like accompanying the crown prince to study. If he made a mistake, of course, the one who accompanied him would be punished. Ning Shu was speechless. The organization was a little interesting. Ning Shu said, "Okay then. Let's get along well in the future. If I do anything wrong, you can remind me. I won't make things difficult for you." The system said, "Thank you. Then we'll get along well in the future." Ning Shu felt uncomfortable with the extra system, but that was all he could do. The system asked, "Then what are you planning to do next? Do you want to do missions? I heard that you know how to deal with celestial stones. Are you going to deal with celestial stones now?" Ning Shu rested his chin on his hand. He had gotten used to the life of a mission enforcer, but he suddenly felt a little unaccustomed to it. It was easy to go from frugality to extravagance, but hard to go from extravagance to frugality. Ning Shu asked, "Do you have a basic understanding of my situation?" The system said, I do have some understanding of you. It's the system's job to understand its mission enforcers. Ning Shu, who had been left to grow up in the wild, was a little unaccustomed to meeting a system like this all of a sudden. Ning Shu suddenly thought of something and asked, "The organization said that I can get all of the mission enforcer's soul energy in every mission. Can you get it?" If she took all of the soul energy, then what could the system get? The system was a soul too, so it needed soul energy. The system said, "My soul energy is provided by the main system, not extracted from your missions. Didn't you make an agreement with the main system?" Ning Shu nodded, "Okay, as long as it's clear." Besides, she absorbed impure soul energy, so the system probably couldn't absorb it. The system said, "Then what are you planning to do next?" Ning Shu said, "I'll do missions later." It had been too long since he did missions, so he was a little rusty. He had to adjust his mentality. He couldn't be careless when doing missions, because no one knew what would happen during a mission. Maybe the mission would fail. Ning Shu said, "Actually, you don't have to take care of me all the time, and you don't have to talk to me all the time. You can cultivate or do other things." Zheng Qing rarely talked to her before, and when he was doing missions, he wouldn't say a word from beginning to end. Unless the backup system had something to do, it wouldn't even talk to Ning Shu. /BK, you're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.